Welcome to the SaintsCityMe, the podcast delivering audio love letters to and from the city of New Orleans and its New Orleans Saints. I'm Dan, and as always, I'm joined by my mate, Mike. Today, we are absolutely delighted to welcome you. You waving like you're on the school bus.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. I'll let you go. Today, we're really pleased to welcome our friend Corey. He is 33.3% of the 28 to 3 podcast. Great guy, Corey. Take the time, come and have a chat with us. How you doing?
I'm good. It is an honor to be with you, fine gentlemen, and it's great. I met you guys. It was fun meeting you all through that initial, but the draft meetup with Adam and Ryan, Saints Block Party podcast, and I almost didn't come out that night because Max.
You were forced to by Max, weren't you?
He just pushed me. It was like in a good way because I was perfectly. With the draft, I'm always kind of like. It's typical Saints, you're just like, you have your hopes and you're just like, you have the guys that you would like to see them drafted. And also, my fiance was out of town that night. And, my ex-wife and I would share custody. So the kids were with her, and I'm like, I'm content to just be here on the couch. And I texted Max and I was like, so you going to that meetup thing you were telling me about? He's like, yeah, what the hell are you doing? And I was like, well, this is what I'm doing. He's like, what the fuck, man? Come on, get out here. And he's like, just come. I was like, yeah, but I don't think I joined their Patreon yet. And he's like, just send them $5 online, dude, and show up. I was like, all right. So I did. Yeah,
unfortunately, that sounds very much like Max.
I even heard his voice in my head.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like I can channel him at this point. He's like, what are you doing, dude?
The ghost of Max is never far away. Yeah. Well, he isn't. Because I think I sent last night when you guys were at the game, and I sent a tweet out about the fact that literally I see Max now more than I do see my wife. He's everywhere at the the That's brilliant publicity.
Yeah. So what's funny, little inside baseball on when you sent that, I was standing, the people that sit next to Max sometimes don't get there. They're great Saints fans, but sometimes they don't get there till a little bit after kickoff. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to go to the game because my brother, who's 2.5 years younger than me, he's also, I'm an attorney by trade in the States, and maybe of the barrister variety if it was over there in London, but he's the same profession. And so his boss has a nephew who just walked in one day, and I guess the guy's kind of a high roller. I don't know, but he was like, here's 4 tickets to the game, so my brother asked if I wanted to go, if my fiance wanted to go. So we walked in with Max, and my fiance hadn't met us yet. So Max was like, dude, just hang here. There's like 2 empty seats or 4 empty seats next to him. So when you sent that tweet, it was like right as the intros were going on and the pregame lead up. I'm sure the TV production was going crazy with all the streetcar B-roll and David Chang this and all that stuff. And you sent that picture, and I was like, wait, that's not Max from tonight.
No,
they were showing an old B-roll footage of him.
Yeah,
and I was like, dude, the one game I'm standing next to you, like they show an old picture of you. They can't even like, is it me? Should I just not stand here?
Corey clamoring for his 1 minute of fame.
I'm like, come on. No,
yeah.
That's all good. I'm not really gunning for it.
We saw Max that week, and then last week against the Texans, our friend Graham from UK is a Texan fan. We see him banging on the side in the footage. Then we see Max again. It's like, okay, every game we watch, we see someone we know slapping the sides and trying to G the team.
The good thing about that is that when we come over for the Bears game, even though we've got tickets already secured, myself and Dan will probably be able to get front row sideline for about $18 the way they're going at the moment. So
yeah,
it should be all good, Dan. We'll be there.
Y'all should absolutely
the shoulder.
Take a moment and then just hang out with Max pregame and just stand next to him until the people next to him show up. So, but I loved it was fun, like meeting y'all, and then everybody else that was there. That's in the Patreon Discord group, Saints Block Party podcast, and then again, since I didn't really have anything to do that weekend, when it was like the following night, which was Friday night, and everyone was like, "Oh, we're going to Superior Grill to get some Mexican," and even though Max wasn't going, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna go roll with everybody. Why not?" And now that was awesome as well.
I really enjoyed that night, even though my heart was broken when we took Kendra Miller instead of Taji.
Yeah,
I know.
Pain.
I don't want to blow smoke up your ass, Corey, but when you turned up on at the draft party, and the thing about that is, for me and Dan, obviously for people who live in America, you know, who can experience the draft if they want, in a way that UK fans can't. You know, obviously it tends to happen late at night, and me and Dan were super excited about being in America and being with football fans, Saints fans, on the first night of the draft. So we're excited about it. But the bit about not blowing smoke up your trumpet is, you turned up, and then the next day me and Dan were like, "Oh God, he's such a nice bloke, isn't he?" And it was almost like in despair. It was like, "God, he's such a nice bloke." Yeah, and you were genuinely. You just turned up with a group of people that you'd never met. You didn't know, obviously, apart from Max. Maybe had some knowledge of others, but you were genuinely a really nice bloke who mixed, who sort of got into the fun of it, and it was a pleasure to meet you that night. It really was.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and you know, I always like enjoy meeting new people, especially those from outside the country, and you know, and it's interesting to me. I mean, having grown up in New Orleans, been a lifelong Saints fan, having known about y'all, or in the general UK group of Saints fans, and which seems to be ever growing. I love it. You know, as a New Orleanian, it's just the most amazing thing to have. You know, this one thing that is, it's not family, it's not work, it's just but it's still this thing you love in the Saints, and to know that there are people on another continent, and hearing stories from y'all's podcast, people that are willing to. I hear this when y'all talk to guys that y'all have had on who are also from England or Scotland, and they're talking about, you know, back when we weren't even that good, and they were going through these great lengths to watch games that happened days ago, or pull up these periodicals, or check stat lines. I'm picturing guys with like the transparent green visors on, just you know, checking away at the stat lines. And I just think that's like it's been proven that New Orleans fans will go to any great length to watch our Saints, you know. So that concept is not foreign to me, but the idea that people like yourselves and like your friends over there just have the dedication, it's you know, kind of like, now I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but it's heartwarming as a New Orleans guy to be like, hey, there's other people who are in this too, that sure didn't grow up here, but like y'all talk about on your podcast all the time, have grown such a affinity with the city itself that it's just a natural connection. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, and I think it comes across like everyone we speak to, it's a similar sort of thing. It's sort of, they just, I don't want to be dismissive of other fan bases, but I don't think I've come across anyone in the UK who's other than maybe Graham, the Texan fan, who is as passionate about the city their team are from as Saints fans are in the UK. I don't hear people like, you know, who are Jets fans going, you know, talking about like little neighborhoods they've been to in, you know, Queens and whatever else. They just, I go to Manhattan and I go to the games. Whereas, you know, from what you've heard from us, like, we'll venture anywhere in New Orleans, almost anywhere, just to experience the city and stuff like that. So I'm not going up to Covington to see. Oh no, it's not really New Orleans, but to see Eric. No, I'm joking, Eric.
Well, well, Covington is actually where my fiance Lizzie is from, and her parents live up there. So I worked with the law firm I'm with. We have a Covington office, and I was there when I started with the firm. I was there for the first 10 months, and it's so funny because just the whole New Orleans area, you have this there's this outsider perspective of New Orleans equals Bourbon Street and nothing else.
Yeah.
And then people that come here, they realize, oh, it's not Bourbon Street, it's streetcars, or it's oak trees, uptown. but then you're like, it's still not it. There's still more, and so it's funny. When I being a New Orleans city guy, I got used to the bubble that is New Orleans, and I go to places like Covington that are just an hour away or 40 minutes away across Lake Pontchartrain, and I get there my first day of work, which is the first amount of significant time I'd spent there, and I'm like, wait, this is just like a quaint, quiet, small town. Like, where's the noise? How is this situation happening this close to New Orleans? And like, I think it's a great thing about Saints fans is that we have such a variety of fans. You have guys like me who grew up in the city, guys like Max, and then you have your guys like my friend Ross, who, call him the inaugural 28-3 t-shirt purchasers club. My buddy Ross from Nashville. I mean, he's from Houma, Louisiana. There it is. I got the hat. We got the hats for sale too. This is the anyway. That's my plug.
Nice plug.
Yeah. Can't say much, Anyway, but Ross is from Houma, so he's I think what people outside of Louisiana call Cajun, but he's really more down to Bayou. And but those fans, it's like they have a whole other level of Saints fanhood where they'll tailgate for games like you would expect people to tailgate for a college game. Whereas me and Max, our version of tailgating is going to different restaurants and bars, or if it's too close to the game, we're just going straight to Champion Square or something. And it was funny. I was when I was at the game last night, I was in the restroom, and this, it was after the game, and this Jacksonville fan, he's taking a piss a couple stalls down or whatever. And he's like, man, this is the worst tailgating city ever. And I was like, you're kidding, right? He goes, there ain't shit for tailgating here. I was like, well, at least it's not Jacksonville. And he's like, but y'all don't know about real tailgates. I was like, well, we just don't tailgate like 12-year-olds. We like anybody can take a barbecue grill and an ice chest and put it behind their car and say they're having a tailgate. But no, we do things differently here. And if it's not your cup of tea, then go back to your, I'm not gonna insult any Jacksonvillians, Duvalians. Just go back to the regular place you came from.
Yeah. It's like you almost want to say to them, we're allowed to drink on the street whenever we want. It's like, we don't need a tailgate to an excuse to have a beer on the street, whereas that's probably what it is like in Jacksonville, I imagine, or places like that.
Yeah, it's just, and I've tailgated there. I went to undergrad at University of Georgia. So, I had to get away from New Orleans for like 4 years just to see the world, as I say it. And our biggest rival is University of Florida, and the game is played in Jacksonville every year. And so they call it the world's largest outdoor cocktail party because, the stadium is situated as one stadium could be in a city like Jacksonville, where there's nothing but just mass acreage of parking lots around the stadium. And so it's all filled with tailgaters. And okay, so like, and it's just that it's such a novel idea to people in that part of the country to drink alcohol outdoors within city limits, not on private property. And so they're like, we're having an outdoor cocktail party, woohoo! And but for us, it's not that novel. It's much more of a flow pregame at Saints games, and that's how I've always known it to be. I mean, sure, people have their parking spots, but like, there's nothing better than, you can talk to Max. Like, we'll meet up at Lucy's and have a drink there, and then walk down Girard Street with our drinks that we haven't finished, and go to a different spot, and then eventually, keep an eye on our watch, and when it's time to go in. It's just more of a free flowing atmosphere, and it's great. I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. But you get the best of both. Sorry, I was going to say you get the best of both worlds, don't you? Because obviously you can, if you want the tailgate experience, you can have it. There are plenty of opportunities to tailgate around the sort of radius of the stadium. But if you don't, and you can do exactly what you were saying that yourself and Max do, which I've done tailgating. I've been to bar hop before I've gone to a game. And that's the beauty of it, because if you want, you can bar hop, and you're literally 5-10 minutes away from where you're going to go and watch the game. In a lot of American cities, you're about 25 minutes away from a stadium if you want to go to a bar. So, each of their own.
Go Dave and Buster's if you want. Play some arcades. The options are endless.
Yeah. I mean, there's something for everybody. There's a Chick-fil-A down by the dome now, so if you want to gorge yourself on some greasy chicken sandwiches, you can do that too. Exactly. Not on Sundays though; they're closed on Sundays, so never mind. I might stand corrected. But yesterday,
you sort of touched on the fact that yourself and Max were at the game yesterday, so I suppose that's a good introduction to talk about our beloved Saints.
Yeah.
Obviously, you could. In the end, it almost felt like a heartbreaking victory, but to be honest, for a majority of the game, it was just absolutely awful. Second half, maybe not all of the second half, but it felt like quite a lot of the second half. Things seemed to change, but you were in the stadium. What was it like during that first half of football? Because watching it on a TV, thousands of miles away, it was dire. I mean, absolutely dire. And we could hear on the broadcast the reaction of the Saints fans the moment the first real mistake was made. Was it as bad as that in the stadium?
It was worse. Yeah. It was worse. It's kind of like the theme of this season. It can't get worse, can it? It's not worse. Yes. The answer is yes. If anybody says
we'll find a way.
The word
we'll find a way.
Can and worse with a question mark in the same sentence, the answer is always yes. At least this year, as proven. But no, it was, and I said it before the game. And I mean, we're all on Twitter and social media and connected that way. And Twitter has been in utter shambles. Starting with the Bucks game, a brief glimmer of hope with the Patriots game, but then as you've talked about, as Max, Nick, and I have talked about in our pod, there's still Saints fans that don't want to be happy. And I'm not, I'm not saying that those fans should have said everything's fixed. No, but just enjoy a win. But there was still this air of, are we okay? And it doesn't seem okay. And my big thing for this team was, I mean, there's a bit of believe it when you see it, but it's also, my message to them, like if I was a coach, which I'm not, but maybe there'll be an opening soon. But
there won't be, Corey. We know that.
Yeah. They won't do it. Yeah. But the thing is, like, if you do something good, do it again.
Yeah.
They can't seem to do that. Even on a play-by-play level. It's like when they get a 10+ yard gain, the next play, it seems every time is a 2-3 yard loss. And so so what I said before the game was fans are restless. There's so much negativity, animosity towards everybody's got their pet guy to beat up. Some people are beating up DA, some people beating up Carr, some people are beating up Pete Carmichael. Max is beating up Olave. Other people are too, but everybody's got their pet person to beat up, and then some people are just like it's all the above. And so I told my friends before the game and Max said, the boos are going to be on a really short leash tonight, and it's only going to take like a 3-and-out or a field goal, and the boos are going to start coming in. And sure enough, when we ended up in the red zone and had 3 just the first time we ended up in the red zone after Jacksonville went straight down the field. And I think was that the trip. I don't know if that was a trip we ended up with the ball on the 5-yard line and just couldn't do it. And and every time you could just it's not often. It's often where when you're in the dome, you can feel the collective desire that everybody wants the same thing, like the same urgency to do something. And usually that's just the very macro idea of winning the game. This was one of those situations where you could feel everybody's collective desire to just see the ball cross the goal line in a Saints player's hands. And so it was like every single play that did not succeed the first time we got into the red zone, you could just immediately after the ball fell incomplete or Kamara gets tackled and didn't get to the end zone, you could just hear people go, oh, you could just like hear the collective sigh from the entire stadium. And maybe I'm sure there'll be people like, oh, you're being dramatic, but you didn't hear that, but it really was like. And so once it was confirmed that here comes groupie, boos, just because like people felt like and look, field goals are not uncommon in the NFL, but like people just really felt like it was the same old shit
again.
Well,
I think it's desperation stakes, isn't it? We've this year we're so desperate for just red zone success and touchdowns that ordinarily Groupie coming on when you're 7-0 down and he's gonna, that's not an issue. It's like, all right, yeah, they've made the correct decision here. But at the moment, the collective absolute desire just to see some red zone action and touchdowns means that fans are going to react like that. Which is a shame, because I'm sure, we'll touch on it later about, the kicker and the punter, but I'm sure that doesn't help him either, because he must feel that atmosphere as well.
People are clinging on like to the point, like you make Corey about people beating up different people. People are also picking and choosing facts and turning them into completely irrelevant facts. So I saw last week, or maybe the week before, people saying, I can't believe that Blake Groupie is our highest point scorer this season. Spoiler alert, your kicker's your highest point scorer every fucking season.
I mean, well, our franchise leader in points was Morton Anderson. And he might still be, unless somebody broke that, but I can't remember, But that's common.
If you go back, I looked at it, you got to go back to there's only one instance since 2009 where the top point scorer wasn't a kicker, and that was a year that Alvin Kamara was the top point scorer along with Will Lutz. They had the same amount of points. And that's where I get frustrated. People making their own facts up. Well, no, it's a fact, and they're turning it into something that is irrelevant, but it meets their agenda. Because I'm one of the people that thinks is a bit of a perfect storm. There's a lot of things that aren't working. And I think if you fix one of them, it's still not going to work because there's other things that aren't working.
I totally agree. The team is a long way away from, and it's not to say, I don't know, Derek Carr is kind of proving me wrong here, but, it seemed like we had the guys. It was just a lot of different steps had to happen before we could be that level that we all thought we could be. But, it's but I'll say this, look, it was refreshing in the second half though, because I'm usually a very optimistic Saints fan. I'm usually one who can be like, no, there's a way we can do it. We can do it. We can still push through. This can happen. And but that first half had me just so down
on the floor.
It just because it just, and especially that when we finally got the first touchdown, it was unbelievable. We had great seats thanks to my brother's boss's nephew, but we were kind of midway up in the lower level, and that first touchdown they got where they put Colin Saunders in at fullback, and it was just to my right. We were about the 30-35 yard line, and so it was like you could almost see a physical wall at the goal line. You just felt like you're watching a sci-fi movie, and they had a force field up on the goal line. It was just like you almost, and we're us New Orleans people, whether you believe in voodoo or black magic or any of that stuff, when you're inundated in the city with it, you're familiar with people saying it's a thing. And so I'm like, did we get thrown? Did a hex get thrown on us at some point that I don't know about? Because this is literally looking some
bad Gregory coming on.
It was looking too bizarre to be believed. Like it almost it just defied the laws of practicality to think that. But how is this possible? How can 10,000 pounds worth of men not just get a little tiny brown ball across that white line?
When the Eagles do it so well. They've found a way of doing it. There was the one play, I think it was 4 attempts we had, and I think was it the fourth one when Kamara, you think it's through, and all of a sudden someone just stands up and just smacks into him, bounces off, and I was like, fucking hell, this isn't going to happen. And I can get that whole thing that you're saying, you just feel like there's something not right. 4 goes, and you've got Taysom Hill and things, and you still can't get it going. It's just so frustrating.
It's got to be in all of their heads or something, because it's almost like I like to play golf, and it's almost like when you get the yips, you just when you shank one, you just I freak out when I shank one unexpectedly. I mean, if I haven't played in a while, then I'll shank a bunch. But like if I've been playing well and then all of a sudden just get a like bullet out, to the right that almost kills somebody, I'm like, whoa, okay, that didn't happen. Because I know if I let that mental thing just sit in my head, it's all I'm going to be thinking about. And the very next swing, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. And look, I've never played American football past the high school level, so I don't know what it's like for these guys if things can get in your head to that level or not. But it seemed like that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because that was the point I was going to make. I can't, when you've been so unsuccessful in that area of the pitch, it cannot not be on your mind. I mean, I know obviously, as a professional sportsman, and they obviously have, they all have psychology experts and all those sort of things in the building, but it cannot not escape you because the pressure, we talked about the fans when they were booing and groupie comes on, mentally that just adds to it. I think it must be the same for the offense. They have been I mean, God, the amount of red zone opportunities that they've had in the last sort of 2 games, and you consider the points that they've made, it's for want of a better word, it's disgusting. I mean, no top professional NFL team should be having those types of stats. So I'm not surprised if it's in their head. I mean, on the flip side, you sort of got that. And yet again, you saw it, Taysom's in, you saw it earlier in the game in the first half that we needed 7 yards. He gets you 7 yards. You need 6 yards. He pummels his way in. And sometimes you just think, how the hell does he actually do that? But then you get to the red zone, and, and we'll jumping ahead a little bit when we think about, where Foster, unfortunately, but also should have caught it. It was a catchable catch. You didn't see Taysom. You didn't see Jimmy. And yet again, those are the things that infuriate. And I know in the presser, it was asked of Dennis Allen about that, and he said, "Well, that's a staff decision." You know what I mean? Go fuck yourself. You're a head coach. It's your decision. Excuse me. We're having problems in the red zone. You need, that 6'7" bloke over there. Throw him in, even as a fucking decoy, to shit them up, to get him double teamed, whatever it is. Do it.
Yeah.
If you put in Foster Moreau, Mike Thomas, and Jimmy Graham on those kind of scenarios, the defense could be like, fucking one of them's getting it, and I don't know which one we got a double team, because if we double team, the other one's going to be free.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things, like it's starting to, when I'm the type of fan where in the off season, when the deck is reset, and we've got guys like Mickey Loomis who are backed by Gale, Dennis Lauscha. When the deck is all reset, I still go back to the fact that, like, not everybody agrees with this, but I still go back to the fact that, like, if it's not for Mickey Loomis, we don't have a Super Bowl. We don't hire Sean Payton. We don't bring in Drew Brees. And it's not just the Super Bowl. Like, we had so many other successful seasons after that, and an NFC Championship berth 3 years before that. And we have had the best by far era, of Saints football that anybody could have ever imagined in their wildest dreams as Saints fans before that. And so when people get on the management for wanting to hang on to the Sean Payton era, I'm not saying they're right to do it. I think it is time to do a whole reset, to finally cut bait. But it's like, I wanted to believe in Dennis Allen when the team said, this is the way we're going to go. His defense did speak for itself. So you're like, okay, well, if we're going to be a team without a Hall of Fame quarterback, we may as well lean on the defense, and he's the defensive coach. So, like, I really wanted to get behind it, and I wanted to be a believer. And even after last season, I wanted to believe that it was the QB position. Everything else was fine. The defense was great. Olave is amazing. Mike Thomas is going to be healthy. Kamara is going to be healthy. Offensive line is all first rounders. Like, everything made sense. And so I wanted to believe it. But then today, it's like they say, like, you really can the test of a man is who he is when the chips are stacked against him, and who he is when he's facing adversity. And when Dennis Allen's facing adversity and gets like probably gets the tough questions are finally being asked of him, and he says things like staff decision.
No,
man. Like it's like I feel like that when the teacher talks to the student, when the student's trying to get away with something, and then the teacher says, do you think I'm stupid? Did you think what you just said was really going to get you off the hook? Because you got to give me the real explanation. And it's it's infuriating.
There's a quote that Rod Walker put up that Dennis Allen said today. I've got it on my phone. Dennis Allen said, I've got to do a better job with our football team of making sure they understand how we have to play if we are going to have success. Dennis, you've said that every week in a different way. But what you're saying is my coaching and my coaching staff, or a number of my coaching staff, aren't doing their job properly. But you're just sprinkling different coloured glitter on it.
But also Dennis Allen as a head coach has never had success. So
no,
quite a lot of the opposite.
Exactly. You can. I mean, obviously, as a DC, lots and lots of success, and I yet again, I've seen people with certain opinions on Dennis Allen as a DC, and you're like, wind your neck in, because you're now, because of your dislike for him as a head coach, it's now starting to colour every aspect of him as a coach. Wind your neck in, because that ain't right. I mean,
he is a good defense coordinator. He is.
But also, going back to what you were saying about where you were saying you wanted to believe and stuff. Hindsight, yet again, what a wonderful thing, because we're all on Twitter. We all see Saints Twitter. 70 or 80% of people, if not more, in the off season were really happy with what the team had done in the off season. A lot of people, I mean, obviously there were some people who weren't happy with the Carr signing. Obviously that might appear to be actually the right thing now, but
confirmation bias.
Exactly. But most people in the off season were, I like what the front office have done. I'm happy that Carr's in. All of these sort of things. So, and yet again, everybody was sort of on that bus of I think this could be at the QB. We were missing the QB. He's in. Hey, look,
just need an average QB. That's what we said. Just an average QB. That'll be fine.
But then that gets to the point of what do we think it is? Because yet again, I think, Dan, you were touching on it. Everybody at the moment has somebody to dislike, whether it is, Pete Carmichael, whether it is Dennis Allen, whether it is Carl, whether it's Olave, whether it's the O-line, whether it's... So where are we is the question. Where do you think we are?
It sounds like a cop-out, but I genuinely think it is the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
I do. So I've started rereading Jeff Duncan's book, Peyton and Breeze. And when you read it and you see the cast that Pete Carmichael was surrounded by when they were planning for the week, looking at what they were going to do on offense, he had Joe Lombardi there, he had Drew Brees, he had Sean Payton. The list of people that was there that were all supporting it and all a collective team making those decisions, and Sean would then sign it off. Carmichael's doing that on his own now.
Yeah.
And I think his safety net's gone.
I think, he was, and we've talked about this a lot, whether on our podcast or on Twitter. I know Adam and Ryan have mentioned it a lot. At first, people kind of seemed to downplay the whole, when they said, "Oh, he didn't want the job."
Yeah.
But he's the best option. I think there were people, some people said, yeah, that's bullshit. We shouldn't give him the job to somebody who didn't want it. But then there were a lot of Saints fans that were like, it's you get to become an NFL coordinator. Like, that's an honor. You're one step away from being the head coach. Like, you're, like you're second in the line of succession. You don't get a choice. If you're offered it, you take it. And he'll be fine. Like, even if he doesn't want it, he's the best thing we have to this offense, or he's the one that holds the keys to the offense that we know and love, the Sean Payton offense. And we thought he held the keys, but the locks have been changed. It's like, and the fact that he doesn't want the job is now speaking volumes. When Rod Walker tweeted out earlier today that Ronald Curry gave the halftime speech to the offense, it's like, okay, well, look, good for you, Ronald Curry. I'm glad that somebody tried to, light a fire under their ass. But, Pete Carmichael you try not to jump to conclusions. You try not to judge a book by its cover. But, when you see his demeanor on the sidelines, you see how uncomfortable he is speaking in public. He just seems, look, there's nothing wrong with you as a human being. If you just happen to be an introvert and socially a bit, reserved, that's fine. Like, on a human being level, you do you, man. Like, it's fine. Like, you don't have to be the life of the party. But if your job is to be the head coach of the offense, part of being a head coach or a leader of any significant group of individual, males that are between the age of 21 and 39 years old is to lead them and to speak truth to them, speak power to their abilities. And he's clearly uncomfortable doing that. I mean, he's good at the X's and O's, allegedly. But it's like, it just makes you uncomfortable as a fan when you see a guy who's supposed to be a leader of one entire side of football just to completely crawfish back or go into his turtle shell. And it's
but you've yet again, you touch on the presser there, and it's every presser now, to me, Pete Carmichael is almost dealing with it like a politician. It's like, he's been told what to say. He's got a set answer for everything. And it doesn't matter what the question is, his answer sometimes doesn't actually make sense compared to the question that he's asked, because he's actually just been told. Well, I'm not saying he's been told, but I'm with you. His pressers are so uncomfortable because he doesn't want to be in the spotlight. You can just see it. He's not a comfortable person in that situation, But that's touching on a point that you made earlier, where obviously we all heard it, yet again, when we were watching the broadcast over here, and there are a couple of guys who I'm in a WhatsApp group, and literally at the very same moment, we were like, did they just say that he did the halftime talk to the offense? But the thing that I would say about that is, and I don't know if we can correlate the two, the offense in the second half was far superior to what the offense was in the first half. So yet again, does he make, because we know if there's going to be a change, it's going to be Pete's going to go sideways. He's not leaving the building. He'll go sideways, and Curry will come in and maybe do that job. So,
I asked a couple of people. They said Carmichael was still calling the plays. The second half, it wasn't.
Yeah, no. I don't doubt that. I just think Curry voicing his stuff at half time.
Maybe he galvanized them a little bit, the team, because they felt that he was delivering a message that resonated with them. I was going to say, and to the point on Derek Carr being a factor in this as well. Derek Carr put up 295 yesterday.
301, I think it was.
He run. That included
yards.
A 5-6 yard.
Oh
run.
Yeah. Sorry.
What did he get? 395 last week against the Texans.
Yeah.
Seems to be okay getting downfield to the red zone. As we said, red zone, he becomes impotent. To draw on an analogy that Corey brought up earlier, in golf they say drives for show, putts for dough. Well, Derek Carr can't putt for shit. And he's not even putting because he gets 4 attempts at the red zone, which is the green, and he can't fucking get in there. So they need to get him. He needs to work. If it was me, I'd be like red zone practice all week, because that's where our flaws are.
I mean, have y'all seen the movie Happy Gilmore?
Yes.
Okay. It was, now that you bring up the golf analogy, watching them try and fail was like the end zone was the clown on the putt course. And every time they putted that ball, the clown just spat the ball back. It was like, and, I guess Taysom Hill was the one that said, "You're going to die, clown," because he finally got in. But, it was, oh God.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Carr is an issue too. I think, because there's a lot of people.
Absolutely.
I wanted to defend him. I did, not because of who, he is as a person or anything like that. I just, as a football player, I believed that the end of his tenure with Las Vegas was a result of a toxic franchise situation. And, I bought into that and wanted to believe that, the production he showed under his time with Gruden and his, the kind of like the middle era of his career was really you want to believe the best, of course. And I thought that was I thought that was the Carr that we could get out of.
That was his ceiling. And could we get that? Could we? Yeah.
And he might be more.
Just give Derek Carr defense. That's what we kept saying. Derek Carr have a good defense. He'll be fine.
And he's clearly a more, if I had to guess, mentally affected individual than we had hoped. Breeze just nothing could get in between his ears. He's so focused on the task at hand. Not saying Carr's not focused on task at hand, but in their focus, like Breeze, you couldn't get inside Breeze's head. You just like it's kind of like you would see with Tiger Woods on a golf course. The ultimate competitors are like that. Tom Brady was like that. I saw Tiger Woods in person once at the Bay Hill when I was in college. And so this would have been in 2006, 2007 when he was almost at the peak of his powers. And
was he chatting up a blonde?
I think before he started walking from, but he just had that focus in his eyes. You can't really see your football players up close. And that's why I bring him up because I've never been able to, you'll never be able to get 5 feet away from Drew Brees when he's in a football game. It's not possible. But ultimate competitor like Tiger, it's just like their eyes are just so focused. Like you try to give him dap, you try to give him a high five, and he just doesn't. It's not going to happen because he's just zoned in.
Yeah.
And so you need that out of your QB, and I think that is something that clearly Derek Carr doesn't have because at least it hasn't shown it. If he had it, it's not loaded in the program right now. But there's very few QBs in the modern day NFL, I think, that are like that. I think the days of having guys like Brady, Manning, Drew Brees, even Rodgers is a head case now. It's like Caleb Williams is asking for ownership money. Like even the guys coming down the pipe, like it's just the QB position is dare I say like in a crisis right now. And I think Derek Carr is kind of showing you how he's not may not be mentally equipped to like drown out the noise to just go out there and ball. It's not looking natural.
No, and yet again, look, I know you're saying it's collective, Dan, and it's a sum of the parts and all that thing. But the bottom line is, I think last night's reaction in the Dome, especially to the first half, in a weird way, because I saw a couple of people who said that they wanted the Saints to lose, which I messaged to you as well, and that infuriates me. It absolutely infuriates me. You can't, because they were just out, straight up. I want them to lose, and it was like that's not me. The thing that when they were so vocal and booing in the first half because the first half performance was disastrous, there was a part of me which was quite happy about it because I thought. Because yet again, Corey, you could probably talk on this. There was a lot of talk about people just leaving, in the moment the interception happened, people just got up and left.
I think Jason from Dome Patrol left.
So part that coupled with the fact that the fans are so vocally sort of booing their own team. So I was sort of thinking, well, I don't want my team to lose, but that's probably not a bad thing because maybe somebody in the front office will hear that and think, ooh, we've got a real problem now. Because, it's sometimes you just need people at the top to hear that dissatisfaction,
But it's interesting because Mrs. B's pulled the trigger on enough coaches for the Pelicans.
Yeah.
So,
maybe
we need that mentality to come across.
Yeah. I think, the Saints are like that first child. And that, they're like the nice car in the garage. And then I don't know what it's, but for those people out there that do own 2 vehicles, not like me, that, they've got their baby, that they're going to treat perfectly. They got their other one that, look, it does a good job. It's not a bad car. And every now and then it's fantastic and you're feeling it. But when one of them needs an oil change, you're going to go to the first one.
Yeah.
That second one, you're more likely to take down a pothole street.
Well, from a franchise point of view, I don't think Mrs. B has got a third child, but the way that she treats the Pelicans is definitely the way you treat your middle child. A middle child is the one that you forget about, because your first child's always going to be your first child, and your third child, if you've got 3, is always going to be your baby. So at the moment, the Pelicans are treated like the second child, which is like, nah, they're my child.
Well, see, they should have done what I would like me and had twins and twin daughters at that. So they're both your girls, and they came at the same time. So they're very much the equals, and
getting the balance.
If only our New Orleans franchises were twins, be a lot better.
And hey, we veered off that. I mean, it was the thing yet again, touching on the whole performance last night. The second half performance was better. Now we don't know why that was. Obviously, they were in hurry up mode for a lot of that, and it really worked. And that sort of begs the question at that point: is that Carr that's dictating that, or is that Pete Carmichael? Right. And yet again, those are the things that we don't know the answers to, because I've heard good.
Yeah, I was going to say, I heard different just different reports that it makes you think when you're doing a hurry up that the QB is calling the plays at the line. But then I've also heard things that in the second half, they've told Carr to stop checking out of the play that was called. And he ran more of the play that was called. Yeah. So it goes back. We say it on our podcast a lot. It's like, we don't know, no. We could, but we're going to speculate. It's not going to stop us from guessing.
No, and it's exactly why that's exactly why I asked the question, because I don't know. So I'm, it's, but also, if it is that where, it is the fact that actually just stick with the plays that you're told, then it can work. And that's a small crumb of comfort to people. But look, something needs to happen within the building this week, I think. Just whether it's, you had to talk about, obviously, Olave and Carr don't get on. My eyes, as a 52-year-old man, is go and sit yourself at a fucking table, have a chat and sort it out, you planks. Because, I mean, it shouldn't be the case, should it? It shouldn't be that two people who are obviously, especially one of them in Olave, who I think is stupidly talented. He had that thing, didn't he, after the Bucks game, where he sort of admitted to sulking a little bit, and the people around him, his friends and family, sort of almost bitch slapped him and said, "Sort yourself out." Like his own people said to him, "I'm sorry, that's not the way you go." Since then, it's sort of been getting worse and worse. So
but even DA threw him under the bus today and said that pass was all on him. I watched Dan on whatever his fucking name is, Ornski.
Ornski.
Ornski, and he was basically saying, this route, you are not expecting to receive the ball on this go route because Taysom Hill was the intended receiver. And I think Carr just decided, I don't care what they've said, I'm going to launch it to Olave. Because I'll tell you something, we talk about Taysom Hill taking a lot of, not Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston taking risks with Hollywood passes. How often does Derek Carr try and fucking launch it downfield? I don't know if that's the play that's being called or whether he's just moving away from the hot route and going, I'm just fucking going and trying to get the Hollywood pass.
That's been a surprise, because one of the things that we as fans thought we could look forward to out of Carr was the opposite of Jameis, that he's known for throwing at tight ends. He's known for throwing across the middle, check downs. But I mean, he's played a lot of hero ball this year. He's played a lot of I'm going to go for the jugular. And look, it's great when it works. It's nice. But when it's unsuccessful, and Nick Underhill had a great article today about, or maybe we posted it even last night, late, early morning for you guys. But when he's like, we have thrown an ungodly amount of fade routes throughout the entire year, and it's almost turned into a perfect metaphor for the entire offense, because it is a fact how low percentage of a play it is. But we keep going to it. And I saw
something that Mina Kimes put up where I don't know if it was recently, but she'd done an article with, I think it was Calvin Johnson, who was the king of that route. But even he was like, I think something like 5 it was a tiny percentage, 5.2% of them work. Now it doesn't work anymore. And obviously, I think Drew was like pretty spectacular at that, but it doesn't work anymore. And why the hell it's a high percentage for us, I have no idea. And therein lies part of the problem. It's like, what's going on in the building? It's just, you know, if you look at analytics and it's telling you those things don't work, don't do them.
I think it just comes back to, you know, you have to blame, like, if there's someone who's like a feet on the ground level person and they screw up, you do have to put blame on them for not doing the task assigned. But then you look above and who put that person in that spot. Now, did that person screw up by putting the guy in the spot that was likely to screw up? And then what about the person a level above them? So that's why we're in one of these situations where you want to blame Carr, you want to blame guys like Olave for not getting effort. I mean, I do anyway. I mean, I'm not blaming all of it on Olave, but I think it's when you see a guy, you know, if Olave were to go down with an injury, we would say, damn, that sucks. We're going to be without our basically most talented wide receiver.
Yeah.
Well, when you take yourself out of a play, you're basically injured. You know, I mean, people might disagree with that take, but like if you're not running the play assigned, then your position, your assignment may as well just not exist, given the way that Carmichael's offense is designed.
Yeah.
So you're as good as injured. You're as good as out. And so if you're out effectively on so many different plays, then that hurts. Now, if the QB throwing to you is throwing the ball in a bad place, now your problem's compounded.
But also, when you're doing that, you're giving opportunity to the defense, because if they see you sort of bail out of a route like quite early on, you're not a problem. Say, you know, whatever. I'm no expert. Me and Dan always say this. Hey, look, Corey, this is the most we've ever spoke about the Saints. So, hey, look.
I was about to say, having been a listener, I think this is
yeah. But when you bail out of a route like that, like depending on what the route is, like if you've got if there's a safety who sees that, they instantly know that they need to concentrate on something else. So you're giving opportunity to the defense if you're not going 100% with it, because the players, it's all mental, isn't it? It's all eyes. They're told to everything's about the eyes. And the moment you see something like that, that's no longer an issue. Let me look elsewhere. But Dan, do you think we should move on, mate?
Yeah, I think we're done. I was going to, before we get into 52 minutes, fucking hell.
This is a Saints City and football podcast.
Saints. I was going to, before we get into the other stuff with Corey, I was going to, a personal highlight for me this week. Last week, the Around the NFL podcast did a London show. So they're on stage, Mark Sessler, Greg Rosenthal, and Dan Hanzus. Greg Rosenthal says he's surprised by how many Saints fans are in London and in the audience, and that there's even a UK-based Saints podcast, which is this podcast, because the old podcast that a friend of ours, James, used to do is now is merged with the Dome Patrol.
Okay.
So Dan Hanzus asked the audience, it was a live show, are any of the guys from this podcast in the audience today? Silence, because we wasn't there because we couldn't go. Dan Hanzus says, well, fuck that podcast then. So I just wanted to say, cheers, Dan Hanzus. You could have at least named us when you said fuck us, because at least we would have got some free PR from it.
Wow.
Like trying to get the max PR from the t-shirts in the stands. Couldn't even name us.
Just drop the name. I mean, if you want to throw an expletive before it, you could have made a t-shirt that said "Fuck Saint City and me."
Exactly.
It would have been amazing.
I might make that t-shirt with Dan Hanzus saying "Fuck that podcast." And
you could.
If I'm honest, I don't want that cunt on a t-shirt. Oh, sorry, did I say that out loud?
I was going to sound clip that. I was going to clip it and tag him. I can't now, can I?
I think I heard that in New Orleans. That came through.
I think, to be honest, I think Dan would appreciate that, because he's been over to London enough times. He knows what we're like.
Probably.
Right,
I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Yeah.
No. You should.
You were quite right, because we were when we heard it, because it was actually on their podcast. When we heard it, we were quite disappointed they didn't name us. We would love we would love for them to say, fuck the SaintsCityMe. It would have been wonderful for us, but hey.
I see y'all starting like that. What's that video with the they put the voices over the dogs, like fuck you, like just going back and forth. I mean, that seems like a very British. Oh, it's amazing. It'd be a very British thing to do.
You better not say anything about my mother. Anyway, let's get into the real good stuff.
Yeah,
real good stuff.
Right. So, Corey, you're from the city. Your family have been in the city for a number of years, haven't they? How long have your family been in the city for?
I'll start on the short end with my dad's side. My grandparents, dad's mom and dad, moved from Ohio when they were just married. On my mom's side now, my great-grandfather was born here in 1897.
Blimey.
I can't recall if his father was born here too. I forget his birth date, but it's a funny, like my great aunt on my mom's side, my grandfather's sister, and my mom's maiden name is Christenberry. And if it sounds familiar, and I haven't mentioned this to y'all because it's kind of hard to explain over a Twitter message, because obviously communicating with y'all across the ocean or whatever. But she did a huge deep dive into genealogy. And so I think my family's been in New Orleans since 1800, but this just gives me a little segue to get into this with y'all. So maybe it's one of the reasons we get along so well, because I, at my most core, am English. So we tracked it back to where my great-grandfather times 8 arrived, was born in the Kent region, Canterbury, and came over from there to Virginia and landed in Virginia. He was born in Kent in 1600, landed in Virginia in 1624. And he was the only male from his family to actually make the trip to the New World, to the States, to the colonies back then, and had a son in 1627, and thereof went my mom's side of the family in America. And my direct ancestors, ascendants, went from Virginia to Tennessee, and then eventually down. My great grandfather or his father may have been the first one to get to New Orleans, but there's I'm direct Kent, England.
You're a cousin. You're a cousin, mate.
Got to be related, right?
Yeah,
and just one of them
for me.
Yeah, exactly. Probably with Dan. To be honest, your granddad 8 times removed is probably from Romford. That
could be.
I'm really happy.
I don't know.
Originally from Romford.
I feel like England or the London area seems so similar to New Orleans, because there's such a context of just saying an area's name. Like, if anytime I hear Londoners talk about he's from whatever ham,
yeah,
and it's like, and then there's always like this is that kind of guy, huh?
Yeah, London's very sort of regional, isn't it? I mean, it's normally split into the context very easily of South, North, West, and East London. And that's the easiest way to explain it. And it is funny because all 4 of those are very different. But that's predominantly because of obviously migration. And migration has sort of coloured the sort of 4 quarters of London quite differently.
Sure. Lizzie and I intend to make a trip over there, because I really do want to, because I also found out that within the next couple years, I would say, but we also found out that one of, I guess, call it great-grandfather times 9 or 10, one of the ones that died in England, and it's crazy the connection they drew, is buried in the graveyard at St. Alphege Cathedral. And so I gotta go make a trip to see my own flesh and blood at a historic site.
Exactly. Exactly.
But anyway, so that I figured I'd at least let y'all know that there's English roots, so there's a connection.
I've done my tree going back, and I found somewhere along the lines I've got Puritans, so they went over to like New York, New England region, but the fucking cowards only stayed for one generation and fucked off back to England. So obviously couldn't hack it. So then I was wondering whether I could claim my residency through that. Go, look, if you go back, one of them was born here, but they came over. They all had, and they're Puritans because they all had names like Hope and Chastity and all stuff like that. So I knew straight away. But they went over, lived in one generation, and they came back. So they obviously couldn't hack it. New York.
I've got one of my best mates growing up did the same sort of thing, and he only got, I think it was only sort of 1.5 generations back, and it ended up in exactly the same village in West Ireland. 97.3 of him was from there, and he didn't bother looking anymore because literally it would have all been there. And I think we know where that would have went.
That sounds a bit inbred to me. That sounds a bit like certain parts of the...
Careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
I think
True Detective season 1.
My dad, my last name being Moll, Moll. My dad's side, I know there's an island off the coast of Ireland, Isle of Moll, Mull, and as we know, surnames tend to change. Thinking maybe there's an Irish connection. There's a land formation over there called Moll's Gap, but Moll was like the nickname of like the village crazy woman, basically. So it might be one of those things where like I don't want to do much more digging into that.
No.
It's like
leave it that, you know.
We'll just call it English on mom's side, Irish on the other
side. The other side, your mom's side, you're happy with that. Leave the rest of it, mate. Yeah, just leave it. It's not moving.
I would say Moll is Irish. You're probably better authority on this than I am, but
no, because it sounds Gaelic. So I think you're right. So probably.
Anyway, so that's what you get out of a. He asked me how long you've been in New Orleans. I'm like, oh, my family tree, of course. Here you go.
Saint City and genealogy.
The Saint City and me plus 3.
But
anyway,
that's just your mum.
Just the mom's side. But anyway, no, I grew up. So family's been there for a while. My Saints fanhood, the benefit of the family being from there for a while is that I was brought into the Saints when I had no choice but to be brought into the Saints. When I was 2.5 years old. I mean, I was brought into them from birth, let's be honest. But my grandfather, he passed away in 2014 at the age of 82, 83. But he was born in 1930 and became an attorney and everything, and ended up being an original season ticket holder, which I guess doing the math, haven't really done the math in a while, but he would have been about almost my exact age. He would have been 37. I'm 38. When he became an inaugural season ticket holder. And so he went to every game. Now he missed some games, but I mean, he's had season tickets from 1967 until he died in 2014. And it so happened that in the 70s, as he progressed in his legal career, one of his biggest clients was John Meekum Sr., whose son was our first owner. And so my grandfather had the benefit of having, and his name is Herbert Christianberry. So I guess continuing the English sounding tradition there, but Herbert Christianberry Jr., his father was a senior, but he had access to a lot of invitations from John Meekum Jr. as the owner. Now, like an owner's invitation back then wasn't really the same as getting an invitation from Gail Benson now, or getting an invitation from Gail Benson in the Sean Payton era. It was getting an invitation to go watch a definitively losing team, where maybe you had Archie Manning or something like that, but you knew they weren't going to the games upset that they were.
Was it the sort of invitation that actually you might turn down?
There very well may have been people that turned it down. Well, look, I brought some props here. Okay, speaking of invitations, so we were able to we cleaned up my grandparents' house. We got all the artifacts and everything, and so when you went to the Meekum box, and I don't know if they still. I doubt they still do this, but he was thought so great of himself, I guess, in 1973, that the box ticket was in fact a golden ticket. And so, if you look here,
look at that.
This is the John Meekum box, game 1.
Wow.
It's 1973 season. So I got a whole stack of these, and so I just like grew up with all this Saints memorabilia, and for anyone who's just listening to the podcast, it's just like a 2x5, 2x4 card. It's like an index card size, but it's just a gold embossed thing. It's got the Sir Saint logo. Yeah. So you can tell that that's not just a marketing trick. That was the original old logo.
No.
And then we got so this is kind of like, I need to get this like sent off and graded, but here is the ticket stub to the Saints' first ever football game from Tulane Stadium.
Oh,
that is incredibly
spectacular.
Yeah, and so and this wasn't stuff that he showed me, and again, for people watching, it's just the ticket stub with the Saints go marching in. It's got the caricature of Al Hurt in the big block letters, and National Football League, New Orleans Saints versus Los Angeles Rams, Tulane Stadium, Sunday, September 17th, 1:30 p.m. No refund on this one. And this was a gate 4, ramp 4, section double H, row 9. Total. What's you want to give a guess on the Yeah, I need to get. That's what I need. That's what I need.
Absolutely.
Max and Nick know a thing about that. What do y'all think the price is on this? Did y'all see the price?
No.
Is it like Saint stupid like fucking?
Is it Saint? Is it cents? Or are we talking?
We'll go prices right rules.
All right.
So Mike, what you got?
I'm gonna go $2.40.
Dan.
I'm gonna be right stingy. I'll get like 75 cents.
I guess Price is Right rules. Dan wins because it was $6. So maybe this is one of the.
No, I win.
Mike wins.
Are you closer? You closer?
Yeah.
I didn't watch enough Prices Right.
I was going to say.
Corey, oh wait, you would have busted out. Yeah. I was.
If anybody was watching earlier when Corey first put that ticket up to the screen, and you're watching on YouTube, I apologize because literally I put my. When you're trying to see it, I just put my face right up to the screen. So
I didn't see that because I was covering I was covering you with the ticket.
Yeah.
You know when you get someone dodgy on your Ring doorbell? That was what Mike was like. It's like, is there anyone in there?
You got the Ring view.
Yeah.
We got the Houdat. We got the Houdat cassette. I brought my whole goodie bag today. I got the Houdat cassette, original. And then we got this. I don't know even what year this was from, but maybe we need this year. I don't know.
I like the song. We Believe.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get. I've got one thing that's old. I'm gonna get Mike's seen it. I'm gonna go and get
it. When Dan said he's got one thing that's old, I thought he was going to pick me up.
Got a picture of this guy, Mike. It's right here.
Yeah, here he is. He's really old. He's ancient. But that's so brilliant. I mean, yet again, from a family point of view, just having those sort of things and kept within the family, and just being a passionate Saints fan that you are now, to be able to just even look at those is magical. I mean, just giving us the opportunity to see them now on the screen is magical for me. It's beautiful.
And that's why people, when we're clearing out my grandpa's house, and a mom and when he died, she had 3 brothers left. There's one now, different story. But cancer's a bitch, put it that way. But there's a discussion of my mom having grown up with all this stuff, and my grandpa picked up all this stuff. It's like, what are you going to do with it? And for me, it's like, look, I have places to keep it. I'm still working on getting my permitting from this other half for the man caves like y'all have. Yeah. But the permit department's really backed up right now. So so we got a wedding and we're getting married on December 16th. So the permits are occupied with other more important things. Which is understandable. I'm not knocking it.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we're still married when this still getting married when this airs. No.
I'll get it out really quick. I'll get it out really quick for you.
We're not gonna have I hope we don't get a reputation.
Anyway, but I digress. But it was I got a place to put all this stuff, and for me, I just like I don't look at it every day. It's not a shrine or anything like that, but it's just kind of like if I'm just like, oh yeah, but what did that ticket say again? Or what, or I want to show people that haven't seen it before. And one good, I'll segue into this story, which was like a completely redeeming moment for the artifacts, if you want to call it that. One of the other items that was in this collection was a Saints. I'll see if I can pull a picture up, but maybe y'all can post it, but I can send y'all can post it. But it was a Saints lapel pin, and it's the original shield, Saints shield logo that everybody's familiar with. And it was a lapel pin from, same era, probably the 70s. And there was like three or four of them in this collection, just identical. And so I've had one put on my jacket when I go to court or go to just go to work, and that's the cool thing about the New Orleans legal community is that all the lawyers in New Orleans are Saints fans. And so there's an understanding that if you show up in court and you're about to argue, what stays on the court. For me, I'm an attorney where it's like whatever happens in court stays in court, and we'll go have a beer after. But I'm going to call you an idiot on the record. I'm not literally, but I'm going to treat you like I treat Max on the podcast. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like we're gonna get into it.
Or the way Max treats you on the podcast.
Or that. Yeah. He thinks he's so smart. But but no, I slip into it just to make arguments. But
Ray Donovan on the pod.
Yeah, I slip into impressions too. It's just a thing of I don't know if they've done it. Max is like, no impressions, please, God, no impressions. But anyway, but the lapel pin, Max had him and I became friends with Roman Harper. I think, as y'all know, we had Roman as a guest on our podcast, and Roman's a fantastic guy. Just absolutely any stereotypes you hear about NFL players being too cool for school, too flashy, too showy, whatever, if those are still stereotypes, I think they are. He just shatters them into a million pieces. Yeah. Roman is an amazing guy, and the second I met him, he just opened up. Was like, "What's up? How you doing?" At Max's restaurant. It was on his birthday. Did shots. Later in that year, it was actually like the Wednesday after the Saints had lost to the Seahawks in the playoff. Not the Beastquake playoff, but the next time we played the Seahawks. They just lost him. And Roman comes in the restaurant. We're having drinks with him and some friends and talking about golf. And I video my golf swing to get better at it. I showed him the video. He's like, that's a good swing. And then it's like, you want to play golf? And next thing we know, like I'm playing golf with Roman and a buddy in New Orleans the next day. And so friendship started from there. And so when he flash forward to him getting inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame, he invited Max. And then Max said, like, ended up Roman sending me an invite as well. And I'm like, this is a big deal. Roman getting the Hall of Fame. It's a guy. He's someone who I consider a friend. Yeah. The Saints Hall of Fame has all of my favorite Saints players in it. As growing up as a kid, and just the fact that I get chills thinking about it. The fact that I'm friends with a guy who's in this group that I just grew up idolizing is amazing. And so I think of my grandfather as just a truly cherished and blessed thing that I had in my life. Like, he was truly one of my mentors, him being an attorney, his father being an attorney and a federal judge in New Orleans, and just a lot to look up to. And so all of the things that are from him that I still have are just sacrosanct.
Yes.
Sacrosanct with a T. And including these lapel pins. And so I thought, Papa would be just over the moon if he knew that one of his lapel pins ended up being the property of a Saints Hall of Famer. Because I had some to spare. And so Roman invited us to this party the night before the Falcons game that year, where he was the induction was at the halftime of the Falcons game, and so I brought a lapel pin with me, and once Roman was talking to everybody that night, and Roman was being Roman. He was having earnest conversations on one hand, and he's on the mic saying, "Let's get fucked up" on the other hand, and just having a good time. And so when Max and I are talking to him, I was like, "Roman, I need to talk to you for a second." He's like, "Is everything okay?" I'm like, "Oh no, yeah, it's fine." I was like, "So check this out," because I know he's a big fashion guy. He gets his suit from a friend, not friend in company, but friend. I think is the name of the suit guy in town. He's big on fashion. He's big on lapel pins. Him and I have talked about it before. So I was like,
but also, Corey, just on that, Roman looks too fucking good for his age. And and I say that.
I mean, there's no look.
I say that as somebody who's got, because Roman's obviously grey and all that sort of. I'm
but
grey.
If you besides,
he
look,
really pisses me off about how good he looks.
He's only a year older than me. He's not
besides you two.
I'm talking about
to use the term y'all used if it's allowed. But besides you two blokes, he wears he flaunts the gray like better than anybody. It's like
without a doubt.
He's so gray, but it's like so on point, and you're just like, dude.
Yeah. I'm gonna say it as an English man. It's sexy.
Yeah.
Do you want me to clip that and send it to him?
Yeah. Oh, I'll text it to him.
I'll text him this. He works it well, the man.
But anyway, so I gave him the lapel pin at this party, or I was showing it to him, and he thought it was amazing. He's like, I gave him the story of my grandpa being a season ticket holder. He's like, that's incredible. And I was like, so this one, I was like, look. Oh, no, I showed him the one that I was wearing on my jacket. I was like, see this on my jacket? He's like, yeah, that's badass. And I was like, all right. So I went in my pocket and then pulled out the spare. And I said, so this one is yours as a gift for making the Saints Hall of Fame. From me to you, from my late grandfather to you. I'm not expecting you to wear it at any point. I just know my grandfather would have loved to know that a Saints Hall of Famer had one of his lapel pins.
It would be special to your granddad.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so I wasn't planning on going to the game the next day. I ended up getting a ticket from my boss who had a spare. I go to this because otherwise you couldn't see the induction ceremony. They didn't show it on TV. So I'm at the game and they do the induction ceremony and they had their jackets already on hangers, like out on the field. And the person like put the jacket around the guy. And so when they get to Roman and they put the jacket on him, the lapel pin is on the jacket. On the 50-yard line of the Superdome for everybody to see. If you look up pictures of Roman Harper induction, the lapel pin he's wearing on his jacket is the one that I gave him the night before from my grandfather, which stemmed from the 1970s Saints. And it was just, he didn't have to do it. I did not expect him to do it. And when I look at that Jumbotron and see him wearing the lapel pin, I just like, I didn't lose it, but I was just like,
you went.
It was
beautiful.
Yeah. And so like, it's just the team means that much, so my grandfather having tickets for that long started taking me when I was 2.5. So I got to see everything from the Dome Patrol to, Morton Anderson was my favorite player growing up. And then Moore leaves and we get into a bit of a shit spiral. Through Ditka, Haslett, Rick Venturi was our interim after Mora, and but then the Sean Payton era brought it all home, but before I get into modern, I guess I'll think of the one thing the funniest story from my grandfather's era was that he was involved with the team when they were building the Superdome. Tulane Stadium was. And the next time y'all are uptown in New Orleans, it's truly mind-boggling how a stadium like that could have been where it was, like physically, geographically. It just doesn't make sense. It's where Tulane's current stadium is, a little bit, kind of. But when they were building the Superdome, it was also during the Apollo space mission era, and there was I don't know if the Apollo astronaut was from New Orleans, but he had some kind of tie to New Orleans. And so when they're giving the tour of the Superdome, they brought they had a little group of people. The Apollo astronauts in it. My grandpa was in it, a bunch of other business guys. But it was before they put the roof on. And they're up in like the seats area in the open air. And they're up in like the terrace level. And the story goes that like the group had to take a pause because the astronaut was having like a medical issue because he was afraid of the height. And
I like heights, but not this height.
Yeah. So you're talking about a guy who's trained to go to the moon.
Oh man.
Who's inside the dome without a roof and is like, I need to take a break here, guys.
That's brilliant.
So,
first time out called in the dome was an astronaut.
Yeah. It was an Apollo astronaut. So
but you're talking like obviously the brilliant story about the astronaut, but the fact that your granddad was there anyway, it was like
it's
incredible. It's you know to have been
that's history. That is history in itself.
But it is, and also in this day and age, it's like we have it in the UK. Obviously, you have it in the US as well. It's sort of historic stadiums don't last. They have a lifespan, and then they're sort of deemed as like, let's get rid of it. And it was
now modern stadiums don't last either. It's like
even last night
knocked down Jacksonville Stadium. Well, talk about Jacksonville.
Yeah,
they would have knocked that down, didn't they? So
but it was like watching it last night when and yet again, I think me and Dan have talked about this on quite a few occasions, especially with guys from the UK and stuff. But even last night on the broadcast, when we're watching it in the UK at 1:15, and by the way, I am going to point out it's now 25 to 1 in the morning. 25 to 1 in the morning in the UK over here. I went to bed at about 5:30 yesterday, and got up at 8:30. But my point was they did a panoramic shot of the dome. And it was lit up with the wire, and it's still, I mean, it's stunning.
It's beautiful.
I mean,
it's beautiful.
It's like when you think about when that was actually built, but it still looks, it's got a redeeming, sort of not modern, but just a redeeming feature about it, where especially when it's lit up, it looks beautiful.
I think it's ageless in some ways. When you, I've said it before on here on our early episodes, but that very first time I'm on the drive down from the airport and it appears and it takes your breath away, especially if you're a fan and you've waited so long to see it. It just dominates the sky, but not in a way that's like garish. It's subtle at the same time. It's not there all the time. You've got to be in the right place to see it dominate the skyline. It's it's just so iconic. It doesn't get enough love for how iconic it is.
No, I don't think, but you're right that it's that thing actually. And funnily enough, when you're a UK fan like we are, when you come over and when you grab a taxi at the rank and you're coming in, for me, as much as like I look at it doesn't matter how often I come over or whenever I'm going past it in a taxi, I take a picture and I send it to a WhatsApp group and I'm like, oh, look, I've arrived. But also the thing about it when you pass the dome, because obviously most tourists sort of will end up being around Canal or the French Quarter. That's where your hotel is going to end up being.
Right.
And the moment you pass it, you know, all right, I'm only about 5-10 minutes away from my hotel as well. So it's a benchmark as well to, all right, we're almost there.
Right.
Which touches on what we were saying earlier about the fact that you can be in the city, you can have a drink with your friend, you can bar hop, and then you can be at the dome. But last night, just watching it, just seeing that panoramic shot of it, it was like, oh my God, there it is. And it gets me every time.
And I love hearing those stories, your appreciation of it, Mike, and then Dan, like you talking about the first time you ever saw it, because for those of us who grew up in New Orleans, we don't remember the first time we saw the Superdome.
No,
at least those who were born after it was built. My dad remembers the first time he saw the Superdome because he grew up on the West Bank of New Orleans and crossed the bridge every single day to go to high school, and that was the period they were building it, so he got to see it coming up. every day, for a period of however many years it took to build. Like, so he tells a story about just seeing it progress and progress and progress. And, my grandfather also said how like the roof itself was because it covers such a large expanse. The general contractor, when they got to the roof part of the architect's design, was just like, we can't do this. Yeah. And they were like, what the hell do you mean you can't build a roof? And they're like, we don't have the engineering to do it. So they called in a bridge company. They called in civil engineers that do bridges that span the Mississippi River and stuff like that. I
can see why that would be the case, actually.
Yeah. And so the roof is essentially a circular bridge. Yeah. That's how they designed it. And so, but for guys like me and guys like we were born after after it was built, we've never had that moment of like seeing it for the first time. And
I remember.
I love hearing it. And I've told people the same thing about the city in general. I love being from New Orleans. I wouldn't trade anything. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I don't know that I could ever, besides my 4 years I spent outside of New Orleans for college, which was planned and deliberate, and I was always planning on coming back. I don't know that I could move away. I might be stuck, but but I've always told people that I wish that I had the only thing I can't ever get in my lifetime, which would be impossible to get, is experiencing as an adult going to New Orleans for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm a bit jealous of, even though I'm from here, I'm a bit jealous of anyone who has had that experience, because I know what it's like to live here. I know what it's like every time I have these little New Orleans moments. Even as a local, if you're not feeling filled when you do have those moments that pop up, then you're doing something wrong. But I still have them. They still come. It's still great. Like spontaneity, this spontaneous moments, like they call it the biggest small town in America. You see people everywhere you go. Even though it's considered a major American city, it's like you can't go. People from college, from Georgia, come visit me. Some of them are Falcons fans from Atlanta, so screw that part of the game. But they'll come visit me, and we'll go to a store, and they'll say, I'll run into like 5 people at a store to go get our drinks for the weekend or something. Like, dude, you knew like 4 people in there. Like, and they're like, what? You just like know everybody in town? I'm like, no, I don't know everybody, but it's New Orleans. It's like, it's just how things happen. You just run into people all the time. And so, hearing y'all talk about first time seeing the Dome just reminds me it would be amazing to have a New Orleans first time, which can never happen. But
no,
I digress. I've almost got a list of things that like I still want to do when I come over. Like, as you remember, we went to Jazz Fest, Mike, and I just kept saying, "Oh, wait, actually, it's Mardi Gras. I really want to see a Mardi Gras Indian. Really want to see." And obviously, it didn't happen with Mardi Gras. But when I saw them at Jazz Fest, I was like, "Fucking hell!" And I was like, "Do you remember, Mike?" I was like, "I've got to get a photo. And it was just this, because you get so caught up in the culture, but you don't live it. When you get to experience it, like today, I noticed that Jess Honeycutt, who was on our podcast a couple of episodes ago,
that was a fantastic episode, by the way. I listened to the whole thing, and I was like, who is this? Who is this person that lives like 5 minutes from me, and it, like, sounds amazing, and just like she and Lizzie would love to hang out. I'm like, and you know what? Like, we've probably crossed paths before. It's like that small of a town, but I was like, that was amazing. But anyway, sorry.
I was just saying, she posted a video up of her. She was just walking down the street, and one of the Lazzy boys was coming down on his chair, on his modified lazy boy. And I was just like, that'd be so fucking cool to just see that, like, just the spontaneousness of it just coming down. You're like, you can't engineer that to see it for the first time. It has to be something completely natural.
No.
And that's why I want to keep coming back and get a chance to see and do these different things all the time.
But also, it's like that. Sorry, Corey. As sort of Dan touched on it there. It's like the thing for myself and Dan when we come over. Obviously, we, like Dan was talking about the first time he saw the Dome. It was the same for me the first time I saw the Dome. But we get that every single time we come in. The sense of excitement we get in every single time we come into the city is you couldn't understand it. You can't understand the charge that it gives you. But then it's every single time we come into the city, and even if we see the same things again, the charge that it gives you, because we don't live there, but we love the city. the culture, the people, the team. And so every time we come over there, we make the most of it. We really, really do,
And we will be in 13 days.
Yeah,
I know it's
hey, 11 days, mate. 11 days. I'm over there.
Couldn't get the early pass. You're getting a tap.
Timer.
That's why.
I'm getting a tap.
I have got it on my phone. I was just going to touch on. I come in on Thursday. Mike comes in on Tuesday.
I come in on Tuesday. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we'll have to do something during the week. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm meeting. I don't think you met him, Eric, who does the Chocobro.
Unless he was in on the draft meetup.
No, he wasn't.
Okay, Eric wasn't there. No.
He said he's gonna.
Okay, nice.
He's gonna skip the Pelicans game and he's gonna meet me and take me to Dat Dog when I land. When I get to my hotel, we're gonna get some dogs and stuff, and I can't wait because that dog was fucking phenomenal when we had it last time.
It's a good spot.
Can I just ask you, Dan, because I get to the city 2 days before Dan, so I'm there for a period of time. I get a tattoo on the day that I'm getting a tattoo with Jay Frosty on the day that Dan lands.
Nice.
I'm then going to the Pelicans game. But I think at the time that Dan arrives in New Orleans, there are 6 other Brits that are arriving as well, aren't there?
Yeah. On the PA flight.
So when you and Eric
be like
the
War of 1812 over here.
I'm just wondering what they're doing.
They're going through passport control because I'm going through passport in New York. So I fly out, I land in New York. I'll go through passport control in New York,
and you're straight out.
An internal. So as soon as I get to Louis Armstrong, I'm grabbing my bags. I'm off. I'm hitting the city. I'm on it. Juicer for me up, baby.
Yeah.
Juicer for that dog.
Fair enough.
I'm all about it.
Sometimes they even have Juicifer on tap at that dog. So be on the lookout.
Yeah, when we went, they was out. Unfortunately,
they were out. Yeah.
I hate that.
But I was going to.
Yeah.
I was going to say, just on your point when you talk about Roman Harper. So I have a tenuous Roman Harper story.
Your first, it's not tenuous because your surname.
Okay, my surname is Harper. That's my surname. So when I put my cave together, I decided I wanted to get a signed jersey put up. So I went out. I couldn't find it anywhere. So I basically used Instagram and messaged as many players from the Super Bowl team and said, do any of you know, I'm not asking you to give me one or send me one, but do you know where I could get a jersey? And I went out to probably about 25 players who were on the squad.
Yeah.
Roman was the only player who responded to me. He said, I'm really sorry. I don't know where to get one. I'd love, I wish I could tell you where to get one. And I was like, that's cool. And then when I finally, and I'm going to turn my camera around, when I finally got it, and it's there up on the wall, center point. I tagged him and he commented like, that's fucking cool. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, so just, almost like supporting what Corey said, like, he didn't have to even reply to me. Like Reggie Bush didn't reply to me. All these other players that didn't reply to me. Roman was like,
Dan, don't call other players out just in case we try and invite them into the pod.
No, shit, right. But Reggie, I already invited Reggie Bush. His agent said he's too busy. The true story.
Yeah. Well, they just got to make up for it.
When he was in Hertfordshire, which was about
he was in London
away from the pair of us, weren't it? Yeah. I remember that.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Roman's a great guy. There's not a message that I send or text or Instagram responding. He always answers.
No, and I yet again, for people that are listening, I'd recommend they listen to the 28 to 3 podcast anyway, but listen to that Roman Harper one because it was one of those where, and you're talking about Roman as a down-to-earth man.
Yep.
But, and we're talking to a slightly separate subject, but it was when he was talking about when he went to the Panthers and his brother who used to dress up.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like, that's a wonderful story. That says something about Roman, his family, the way they've been brought up, and also how down to earth they are.
Yeah. Prattville, Alabama. Where they're from.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant story. So anybody who listens to this podcast, listen to 28 to 3 podcast anyway, because myself and Dan listen to it religiously. But especially that Roman Harper episode.
Yeah, it was
so enjoyable to listen to.
Episode number 6, if you're flipping through.
Oh, really?
The numbers. As the guy in the group who is the unofficial producer that posts that record, does the editing and we don't edit as in cut it. We really don't cut anything out.
No, we don't.
We don't make any cuts. I just make sure the audio's, the one guy's not significantly louder than another. And I'll post them. I'll post them to our platform, but I always remember the numbers of certain episodes. Or most.
Corey, can I ask? Obviously, we're talking about the 28-3 podcast. So, what was it that made yourself, Nick, and Max start a podcast? What? Like myself and Dan have spoken about ours. Ours is, we're international fans, and we wanted to talk to the community. And obviously, we've diversified a little bit because we talk to a lot of sort of people in America, but notably, we talk to people in America who've got an association with the city. We don't just talk to people in America,
right?
But we try and obviously speak to international fans, and that was what myself and Dan wanted to do. How did the podcast come about between the three of you? What was the conversation? What did you want to do?
So it was a mix of things. I think independently, Max has always wanted, and he'll say it, he's always wanted to do a podcast. He's had the idea of doing one for years, over 5, 6, maybe even 10 years. And it's just that he wasn't about to just go jump on a mic and do one himself.
Yeah.
But separately of that, Max, Nick, and I became friends with Max when I was either in law school or like the year after I finished, when he and Max was one of the front face of the franchise owners of the restaurant Root in New Orleans. Nick's one of the silent owners. And Max and Nick had known each other since they were kids anyway, but I would always be in Root. My ex-wife happened to be friends with Max's ex-wife that we were then married, but and so Max's ex would text my ex when they were friends, and hey, let's go get drinks. And Max's ex was like, oh, bring Corey along. I'm sure Max and Corey would get along. And so the girls would meet up with each other, and Max and I would just sit there while the girls talked, and we had drinks at the bar. Yeah. And through Max, I got to meet a lot of guys that he knew. But Max and I just kind of look. I mean, y'all hear the way we talk on the podcast, and that's the way it was from literally day one. And it just had a lot of. We're both very opinionated. Max, obviously, we have our different styles, to put it politically correct.
Corey, Corey, sorry, I don't understand what you're talking about there. Really?
Yeah, Max is much more forceful and forward than
really?
A little bit, and which is good though, because I tend to be more, like I'm doing now. I tend to think about what I'm about to say a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
And then Max was just
by the nature of your job, I imagine that comes quite.
Yeah, it's hard to shake it, especially if I'm making an argument, because I'm so used to every single word making a difference, because the people who are usually scrutinizing the things that I'm saying are judges or are other attorneys, and so every word is meant to pack a punch. And so but on a podcast, you really, and it's something I'm actually like, trying to remember even episode by episode, is like, it's just talk, dude. But obviously we have different styles, I guess is the point of that. So we always.
Sorry, Corey.
Go ahead.
Before you go on, it works because
yes,
it is three. Like obviously, Nick is the quieter, more analytical side.
Nick is incredibly. Nick hasn't. Forgot. I mean, Nick is one of those, when posts go viral about like LeBron James remembering like every play of a last sequence, or like Deshaun Watson when he was talking about some play and routes run. Like Nick's got one of those types of memories. When he watches a game, it's like everything sticks in his head, and he can. That's why, like, one of my best buddies from high school, I'm on a group text with him and my brother, and they listen to the episode. they listen to the pod, and he sends me a quote of myself from the Jacksonville preview pod, and says, "Quote, Corey, what do you think about the Jags?" I don't know. I didn't look at any stats, but end quote. And then he just replies with nice, dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, Nick has all the stats.
But then Nick dips in with saying, "Oh, by the way,"
it's more of like a clue. It's like a cue for Nick when I was like, I didn't really look at the stats because I know when I say that, and he chimes in with 21st on defense. Like right away. So it is a good mix. And but soon enough after I met Max, we started doing an annual beach trip in the fall because Nick has some investment properties in Destin that are rented out during the year, and they kind of pay for themselves because it's a beautiful beach. And but they always open up around the late September, October, which allows us to just show up and hang out with a big group of guys. And the first time we did it was what was Max's de facto bachelor party to the beach. And then, shortly thereafter, there was, like I said, I'm divorced. Max said divorced back in the day. And so like, there's different reasons every year to end up going back. And so it's just something that we do every year. And it was one of the years, I think it was when Brandon Cooks was on the team, and we didn't have Mike Thomas yet, but I think Calvin Benjamin was even on the Panthers that year. But we were just at each other's throats, just the three of us, even though there was like 8 other guys in the house.
Yeah.
The three of us are sitting there on the couch, just screaming about whether or not we thought Brandon Cooks was a worthwhile receiver. Kind of like the same way Max is doing about Olavi right now. Yeah, but Nick was trying to say that dude's never going to be what we need. He can't go up and high point a ball. And Max is like, he's fast as fuck, dude. And I don't know, maybe I have that. Maybe I have,
No, you've nailed it. You've nailed that.
Yeah. Maybe I have it reversed about whose position was what, because I honestly don't remember. But it was like no one else in the house was
interested.
No, it was the opposite. Like everyone was just like, oh shit, how is this going to end? And so we always say with the podcast that we want it to be as close to that singular instant as possible, where it's just the three of us, whether we're hanging out in a living room on the beach, or if we're in a bar, just shooting the shit about the Saints. Yes, arguing. Yes, making people around us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
By the way, we're arguing, but at the same time, knowing that like we're all friends and like we're gonna go at each other's throats about the Saints because we disagree a lot. But at the end of the day, like we respect each other. We're friends. It's all going to be good at the end, and we're all in it together. But when we decided about turning that, because like people talk all the time by themselves with their friends, but turning that into a podcast, we're Saints junkies, just like the rest of y'all, and it's like we thirst for content when it's the off season, when it's preseason training camp, when shit like what's going on right now is going on. Like we want to know. And, there's a lot of good information out there. I mean, Ross Jackson is a great podcast. Adam and Ryan do a great podcast. Nick Underhill has been changing the game with New Orleans football.
Yeah.
But we thought, and it's no discount to anybody else, we just thought in terms of the style of a podcast, we thought there was a bit of a void in the market of podcasts where the hosts are debating with each other, are actually in disagreement, because sometimes you need the information, you need the agreement. You want to hear guys agreeing with each other. You want to hear them developing a topic and making it better because you can make a topic better with your agreement. You can get into it, you can analyze it, but we kind of we call each other out. It's like, why did you just say that? There was this one time that Max said he was really big on Caden Elliss, and I just couldn't believe it. I said, what are you talking about, Max?
Right, Corey, I'm gonna stop you. I'm gonna stop you there for a very valid reason.
Had to throw you all that softball.
I think Dan's been waiting for this moment. So Dan,
all right,
you're now up, my friend. So let's hear it, my friend.
So we know that you're on Elliss Mountain. You climbed it. We listened to the podcast. We know you've ascended the peak of that mountain.
Oh yeah.
So you've been big on Elliss, as long as anyone's known his name. So I've got some stats
I think Corey's been big on Elliss since his granddad first went to the Saints game. Is that right?
Yeah. Just he was really good as a freshman in high school, and
yeah. All right.
The first question: Corey, what high school did he go to?
Yeah.
Yeah, not gonna know this one. What's the high school?
Judge Memorial Catholic. That was the high school we went to.
Yes,
in Utah.
See, I was gonna say it. You beat me to the punch. Yeah.
Hey.
College you went to?
It was Idaho.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Do you know what his 40-yard dash time was?
Ooh, good question. He definitely ran wasn't a 4.2. It wasn't a 4.2. No, that would have been too good.
I like
4.67.
Oh, you got 4.71.
Yeah. I think his unofficial his unofficial time was 4.67. When I saw him in person.
I think we can give that to Corey, don't you?
I'll give you
we'll give that.
You're a bit slow on the finger. What about his vertical jump? You know what his vertical jump was?
25.
Oh, no, you went off 34.
Oh, it's better than I thought. Okay.
Broad jump?
9'3".
10 foot.
Ooh, okay.
Which round did he go? Which pick did he go?
He was fifth round, right? I don't remember what pick. Wasn't he fifth?
He was seventh round, 240.
He was seventh round.
Yeah.
See, I had him valued as a fifth round pick that year.
I'm disappointed in you, son.
I had him valued. I just always, honestly, though, in my head, I'm like, wait, he was our fifth round pick.
I was surprised he was a seventh round pick. Actually,
maybe it's because he wore 55. He wore number 55, so it's just a.
Dan told me he had a set of questions for you, but he didn't allow me to know what the questions were. Even I knew he was a seventh round pick, and you are on Elliss Mountain.
One for both of you.
No, go on.
Two of his brothers have played in the NFL. One is still active in the NFL. Which team does that brother play for? It's Christopher Elliss. He's active on an active roster right now in the NFL.
I'm going to say the Steelers.
I'm going with the Patriots.
Right state. Mike had the right state.
Oh, he's an Eagle then.
Yeah, he's an Eagle, yeah. He was at the Vikings last year. He's an Eagle now. So that was just to test how you was on Elliss Mountain. I had it prepped.
I probably got one of those.
I'll give you two. Dan, before we put the episode out, we're going to have to find a really 1980s theme tune to a game show thing to put on there before it comes out.
Yeah. Well, you should have switched out your mic for one of those like long stick mics.
Yeah. Blankety blank. Anyway,
it means something else in my house.
You've won a free gift card to the Saints Block Party meetup.
Yeah,
but you're already going to.
Corey will just come to it without having paid a Discord fee, so it doesn't matter anyway. So
what, like Alex?
Yeah,
I got a message from Adam the other day saying, "Tell that fucker Alex he hasn't paid his Discord fees in a year."
Did he send him the Family Guy gif of Stewie with "Where's my money"?
He if I'm honest, straight away, though, fair enough.
If I'm being honest, I wouldn't threaten Alex.
Oh no, he's like Secret Service agent. Hidden,
exactly. Spy
somewhere.
Spy.
Well, it's not that secret if you know he's Secret Service.
Well, yeah. So, you had a fledgling football career, Corey. Fullback for Jesuit High School.
That's right. Same alma mater as Mr. Foster Moreau, who we know he's hurting today, but feel for him. But yeah, no, look, we joke about it all the time on the pod because I'm always playing up the high school football days, the hashtag glory days. It was fun, man. It was
Springsteen, glory days.
Yeah. But look, I mean, it's the same district. Obviously, Foster came from. Leonard Fournette played for St. Aug, which was in our district. Craig Stelz, who ended up he was an All-American at LSU, ended up playing for the Chicago Bears. He was my grade, so I ended up, when he was on defense playing safety, I was assigned to block him a few times, and but it's funny, we hit guys like him. We played against each other since like 8th grade football. So he was actually a tailback in 8th grade. I was a linebacker, so we just ended up like flip flopping. But that was fun times. I got a mild concussion once on a lead block, and heard thunder, saw lights. It's the first year they had the Revolution helmets that were quote unquote concussion proof, and it contributed to my theory of all these head injuries. Is that, and again, like I always say, if I had to take on a conclusion I made from playing the game as a high schooler, even at the age of 18, I'm like, that's on the high school level. I can only imagine what it's like multiplied by a million for the NFL. And even as an 18-year-old, I didn't think like, oh, thank God this helmet's going to make me more safe. It literally made me feel like I could run into people harder.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to fuck me up.
Helmets at one stage, weren't they? Because they said it will stop players.
Yeah.
Thinking that.
And so it made me go faster, harder. And I'm like, these helmets they're making, the safer they're making these helmets, the more confidence these guys have, they can just be missiles out there.
But then on the flip side of that, and sorry, Dan, we always have, especially in the UK, we always have this, and it's not really a debate anymore, but it used to be a debate about NFL and rugby. Two completely different sports. But where we're talking about helmets is that rugby players don't wear helmets. They don't wear pads.
Yeah.
And now there's a huge thing in the UK about people are now taking the governing bodies to court because of the amount of obviously impacts they've had and the head injuries that they've had. But you only have to look. I mean, I'm not our friend Di is, but we're not huge rugby union fans. But you've now got the World Cup at the moment, which is at the semi-final stage. Literally, you see the injuries on people's heads. You see their ears. You see everything that goes on.
I never play rugby. What the fuck's
no, exactly. And but the impact that they have is total bone on bone, skull on skull.
It's different.
Yeah,
it's deforming.
But they're a little bit behind the NFL in the fact of concussion protocols and all that. Yeah. But even Premier League soccer have now started to, only in the last 3 or 4 years, started to take that a little bit seriously, because obviously when people go out for a headed ball and they clash heads, concussions. So
they found, I watched a documentary on this on ice hockey. And they found that the majority of concussions that occur in ice hockey are not head-to-head collisions. They are where the players go. Did you say what I think you said? No, they are when the players
hockey puck.
Fuck. I thought you said fuck. No.
Off character. Like I've been sitting here the whole time, like, go ahead, Dan. Yeah. Go ahead, Dan. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, fuck.
But it's body to body collisions, and it's the force,
the whiplash,
then head back, the whiplash that causes the concussion. It's not actually head to head collisions. So there's probably a lot of players in the NFL who get concussions and it goes completely unnoticed because there's no head to head contact.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible. I know it's so much on the players to report it, because like if they, I don't know. I mean, I've only had. It's always good when you start a sentence like, I've only had so many concussions. I never got knocked out cold, thankfully. But when even on a high school level, there's that mild concussion, and I was able to just give the whole like shake it off, and I went right back in the huddle. I mean, I like literally slammed into the middle linebacker at full speed, and We're playing Santa Monica in a playoff game. I'll never forget it. I mean, I don't forget much from high school. I mean, if you haven't heard anything from the podcast, it's all
you're like Nick when it comes to high school football.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to sit here on y'all's podcast and talk about how my tailback had 2,700 yards rushing his senior year and how we had 46 touchdowns with Mr. Football in Louisiana and started for UCLA the next couple of years after Maurice Jones-Drew. I'm not going to talk about that.
No, I'm sure you're not.
No, but even on that play, it was like I saw lights immediately, heard thunder, and I went straight back into the huddle because I'm like, I'm not coming out of the game. And it just so happened, not because of me, but it just so happened that the situation in the game, our team called a timeout. And while I was over on the sideline, I guess my better wits kicked in, and I just told our trainer, like, hey, I don't know if it's a big deal, but here's what happened on the last play. And he was like, why don't you come over here? Why don't you come over here? And he, he held me, and he rightfully so held me out. Cause if I had run the same play again or anything similar, I probably would have been out cold on the grass, you know, and the players in the NFL, I'm sure, obviously totally different beast, but to a degree, these guys don't want to come out. And so especially with these offensive line, I mean, we think we know when the concussions happen as fans, because as fans, we watch the game, we follow the ball. We watch the QB, then he throws it. We watch the receiver, we watch the DB. If there's a big old hit, someone gets knocked out, we see it. But we forget there are huge collisions happening on the offensive, defensive line, the linebackers rushing in every single play. And as big as the concussions are with the receivers and DBs, like they're happening, they could be happening when in the places you're not seeing it. And so it's up to those guys to be like, hey, I got my bell rung, and go to the sideline. Yeah. And if they don't, that's where things get dangerous.
But also you get that issue. Sorry. No, I was going to say also part of the issue, obviously, if you talk about NFL players and you're talking about the people that are high caliber and are paid a load of money. If you're for want of a better expression, we sort of say that in soccer, UK football, if you're a journeyman. So if you're somebody who knocks around and you're on special teams, and maybe you're a sort of safety and stuff, not in a horrid way. We know the average career in the NFL is what I think it's just under 3 years.
Yeah, it's not.
No, you're not going to tell anybody. You're not going to tell anybody that you're injured because you worry about the fact that you're out of a career, got a short career if you're not top level. Right. And so obviously if you get something like that, you're just going to run back onto the field and say, no, I'm okay. Yeah, nothing
nature
happens.
of the competitors.
There's a lot about our O-line. The fact every single one of us had a fucking concussion this season.
The only thing I would say there, and this is actually the sort of weird thing about it, is that this week our own line was solid and it was full of just like unusual players. I mean,
Irving's a first round pick.
Yeah, but no. I think we had still had 3 first round picks, but obviously Pete had shifted over to left tackle.
Right.
Hadn't played there since college.
He played there at Stanford, and he
was up against Allen and did an okay job. I mean, Allen's one of the best pass rushers in the league and did an okay job with him.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about what we were talking about earlier. And look, I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but it's kind of like when you see guys thrown into a situation where they don't have any opportunity or any option to like overthink their situation. And then they play
the game.
And they play well. It makes you wonder, like, every other position is filled with guys who have been there entrenched, who are obviously like, some people say like, oh, the players don't read the papers, players don't read on Twitter. I mean, okay, well, maybe like Juwan Johnson might not speak for everybody, but he tweeted out like, y'all getting on Carmichael's whack. Yeah. Like your injured starting tight end is like, don't talk about my OC on Twitter. And it's like, they're reading Twitter, guys. Like, I was on Instagram the other day and like, granted there's younger guys on the team, but like you had Sal DeVary doing an Instagram story walking out of the tunnel for pregame warmups. It's like, get your goddamn phone away. Maybe that's the old guy. I mean, talking like, or the millennial or whatever but like these Gen Zers, it's like always connected. Like, these guys are plugged in, is what I'm saying. And so like if they're overthinking it, and maybe they're in their own heads, but there's no telling. But it's not. Like, yeah.
Sorry, Corey.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's just different than the way things used to be when not the good old days. Like I hate when usually anybody any like American white male when he's like, don't you just like the way it was back in the good old days? I'm like, I'm not about to have that conversation with you, sir. No, because they're usually talking about something.
They're talking about the same
here. So I'm not. Yeah. I'm not about to be the good old days guy because I'm not. I do not agree with that line of thinking at all. But it's but with the Saints, it's like, we want it to be that 05, that 06 year with like the dome reopening, the NFC Championship that we won. It's like, we didn't even get into it, but like those were like 2 games that I was at, and I was lucky enough to be at. And I think as fans, there's so many Saints fans, like we have a fan base that has stuck with this team for so long. Like we don't have in and out fans. We don't have fly by night. I've been having gone to college in Georgia, an hour away from Atlanta. I can tell you that the Atlanta Falcons fans, at least there are some Falcons fans who have been Falcons fans for a long time. But there are very few, very few. And you can tell the vast majority of them, it's just such a corporate city, and I just felt bad I would tell when I got to college in 2004, because people ask about like Katrina and stuff like that. And, Katrina hit when I was a sophomore in college. So I was in Athens, Georgia when Katrina hit. And so when I got there the year before, the Saints were in like the end of the Hasselt era, and everybody knew us from New Orleans, and everybody from Georgia was like, "Oh, so you're Cajun?" Like, no, I'm from this city.
Yeah.
What New Orleans is Cajun, right? I'm like, it isn't.
I'm clearly Creole.
Like, I was like, if you need to put an adjective, it'd be Creole. They're like, oh, like shrimp Creole. I'm like, oh, Jesus, who am I? Oh God, and but the thing was, like, I said, but I'm a big Saints fan. They're like, you still root for that team? Like, don't they suck? And I'm like, yeah, unfortunately they do, but I'm still going to root for them. And I was like, I don't have to worry about you. I was like, and I guess I got to worry about you all being Falcons fans. And these kids who like grew up in Atlanta were just like, we don't give a shit about the Falcons. We're Braves fans. We're Georgia football fans. And it's just like, I'm like, wait, how are y'all not Falcons fans? Y'all grew up here. They're like, Falcons, like, Mike Vick is cool and everything, but like, it's the NFL. I was like, yeah, exactly. It's the NFL. Like, that's your team. And it just, there's different cities just don't have the same concept of an NFL team.
They operate differently, don't they? It was like you sort of touch on with your dad and your granddad, but it's the same for a lot of people in the city. It's you're sort of born into it. It's not something you decide about. It's you're born into it because your parents supported their parents supported it, and yet again we touch on it time and time again on the pod. Is that the affinity with the city and the Saints? Like, obviously, post Katrina, you can obviously see that. But even pre Katrina, it was if you're born there, you're a Saints fan. I mean, it's very rare that you find somebody who's born there who's not a Saints fan.
Wayne.
Who was and then changed.
I was
gonna say on the Atlanta and Charlotte, they're both. I've worked in Charlotte. They're both transplant cities, massively.
The Atlanta games. And thankfully I've never been to a Falcons game that did where the Saints weren't playing in the Georgia Dome. I still haven't been to their new stadium, but it's I heard you hear stories about people getting excited, or like that the Cincinnati game was always a big one in Atlanta because like there's some like apparently a big transfer of people from up north to Atlanta and vice versa, but it's but I will say this about like when I was up there, something about having gone to college up there, Katrina hitting when I was up there, the Saints' biggest rival being from an hour away from where I'd, spent 4 years of my life. It was, this would be one of the memories of talking about my grandfather, because I think, I could start my own podcast probably just about him. And and one of the memories I'll always one of the memories I always have from the Saints, from him, it was just one of these perfect culmination type memories, because he almost didn't evacuate for Katrina, and he lived in the Lakeview area, which their neighborhood was safe, which is his house was down the street from my house, and our neighborhood was close to Lake Pontchartrain. And if you think of the city as a bowl, Lake Pontchartrain at the north, river to the south, the high points of the city are the river and the lake. It's lower in the middle. So when I went to my house for the first time, there was a watermark across the entire city. So I went to back to the city like 3 weeks after the storm, and Lakeview itself, which is the neighborhood immediately adjacent to mine, had watermarks 10 feet up on all the houses, just because the water sat there and was toxic, and it left a little stain on the facades of every house. And I'm like, well, great. My house is absolutely going to have been underwater. Everything I had as a kid, like these things I showed you on video, is all going to be washed out and soaked. So I get to where my house is, and I'm like, the water lines seem to be going down. This is interesting. You never know about your own topography until a de facto science experiment happens and an entire lake empties out into your city.
Yeah.
So the water line was present on my parents' property, but it was in the front lawn, where from halfway up the lawn, the grass was dormant, and halfway up, it was lush green, meaning the waters from Katrina had stopped on my parents' front lawn. And I was like, you got to be shitting me. I mean, so you talk about, like, people always use privilege as a bad word. People always use, luck. And it's like, just be blessed. If you have privilege, you lived in a neighborhood where maybe the water stopped, or you just got lucky, just embrace it, because, and that's why I'll never take things like I show you all on this podcast for granted. I'll never not tell anybody that I have an original season a ticket at the expense of, like, oh, look at you, fancy pants. It's like, my grandpa was what he was. I mean, he got himself into a great position, but, like, this stuff's amazing. It's history. Like, we're going to share it. And so when I was a sophomore in college, a junior in college, Katrina had already hit. We were lucky enough to continue to have the Saints when it looked like they were going to leave. And then they scheduled the dome coming for that Monday night. And my classes on Monday ended at like 1:25 p.m. My junior year. And I told my grandpa, I'm like, hey, because he always when we went to the game, it was him, my grandma, me, and my brother in 4 seats that he had.
Yeah.
And when I was away at college, it was, my uncles would go. But with the game, I was like, hey, Papa, is it's gonna be all right if I use the ticket like usual? And he's like, well, no, it's not okay, because you are in college in Georgia and the game's in New Orleans. And I'm like, but I was like, he was very studious, like devout Catholic, just this disciplinarian. And I'm like, well, no, but
that almost, sorry, Corey, was that almost like, well, you're not going to be studying if you
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's like, son, he'd say, son, like, I'm not gonna allow the fact that I have a football ticket for you be the reason that you skip out on your studies.
Studying. Yeah.
I need you to be there studying. I'm not going to contribute to you not doing that. And I said, all right, well, what if I told you this? I can leave class at 2:15 on Monday, make it to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport in time to make a 5 p.m. flight that, because of the time difference, lands in New Orleans at 5:30 p.m. And if Mom picks me up from the airport and drives me straight to the dome, I can make it to the game. And then there's a flight out on Tuesday morning that gets me back to Atlanta, then Athens before my first class starts. What if I told you I don't have to miss a single class and I can go to the game. And I think he realizing that, like, he's like, so you don't have any tests or anything? He's like, no, they're just classes. And he's like, are you sure he's like, if I will know if you miss a class. I was like, I'm not missing a class. And he's like, all right, then you promised me that ticket's yours. And so that was what happened.
Oh, wow.
Had the ticket, got to Atlanta, screamed over to the dome, watched the, watched the game. We all know what happened with the Gleason kick and block punt. And then immediately the next morning went straight back, didn't miss a single class, was everyone... No one that knew me, they couldn't believe that I was actually there. They were like, "Did you see that game in New Orleans last night?" I was like, "Yeah, I was there." They're like, "How? We saw you yesterday." I was like,
Can we, as obviously UK fans who maybe watch that and sort of reveled in the fact that it was a remarkable experience. Was it that remarkable? Did you find it as a young man that much of a remarkable experience?
It was one of the prime memories of my entire life. Because for me, it was like, it's just so many different levels, because it's like, there's my grandfather who now, since he's been, passed away 9 years ago. It's like, I have that memory with him. The dome is one of those things where, everybody has these places that are like their second home, a place that's not your own home that you grew up in, that you, for some unidentifiable reason, feel almost as comfortable in as your own home because you've been there that many times. The dome was that for me, because we had been there every year since I was 2.5 years old, and 8 games per season, or 10 if you're including the preseason, and just walking in as a kid and getting a year older from the time I could literally form memories to like this day. It's like every time I walked, and it was the same section, the same seats, and every fall, starting in August or September, walking into that building, it just the same view, the same spot, the same people. It just was this level of familiarity. And then being 20 years old and seeing something like Hurricane Katrina happen, and seeing pictures of that place that is the next closest thing to your second home, just literally ripped apart, people dying inside of it, the worst possible humanity disaster you could imagine. It just puts you in a really weird, dark place that like maybe this place is never coming back. And it's something you see, like I pass by it on my way to work every single day. So, y'all talk about the way you see it. And again, like I wish I knew that feeling, but I also don't wish that I didn't know what it was like to have the moments that I've had in it. And so like, I see it every day on the way to work. It's something commonplace, but to see something you just take for granted being something where you're like, I mean, we might not even get the football team back. They might demolish the thing. Like all these different thoughts go through your head. And then when you realize, after the storm, that it's coming back, and that natural New Orleanian, like Saints fan, like us against the world mentality, nothing can stop us feeling, just started kicking in. And you're like, we're coming back. We're fucking coming back. Like we're going. Here we go. And everyone was just so hype in that building. There was just like an energy. Like I said, there's times when you can just tell the collective energy. You can tell that everybody in that building just wants the same thing without even having to speak to each other. And it was like on that level. And when Gleason blocked that punt, because the Falcons were a good team coming in, and people forget about the X's and O's of that game. Like it was going in, we didn't know we had. It's Sean Payton's third game. We looked at like kind of like, not spectacular in the first 2 games, and the Falcons were really good. There were just a lot of talent, and so we knew it was gonna be a really tough game. And people were like, "Oh, the Saints, it's a nice story, but they're probably not gonna win. But we hope they do." Hurricane Katrina, the rest of the world was like Hurricane Katrina, oh yada yada, and everybody just knew it was a more important thing.
But also at the time they had Michael Vick, who was just like it was like the second coming of Christ, almost from a QB point of view, wasn't it? It was. It was like
it was. I mean, it was. He was doing things
that viewed. Yeah.
He was doing things that never been seen before.
Plenty more. Said there's been plenty of false stones. There'll be plenty more.
Yeah, and so I'll put it this way: like when Gleason blocked that punt, it was the first time in a game. You know, my grandfather was, he would have been 76 that year, sitting next to me, my brother to the other side of me, and he was a pretty heavy set individual. Got harder and harder for him to like physically get up and down the stairs of the stadium.
Yeah.
Man loved to eat. Went to lunch every day. But
I like him.
My man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of his best friends was from high school was Moon Landrew, who was former mayor of New Orleans, and he'd always get a lunch with Moon and this lawyer who ended up being Chief Justice of Louisiana Supreme Court, Pascal Calgaro, and they always had these like buddy power lunches and eating too much and stuff. And so, you know, but it's like it was the first game where I ever like physically shook my grandfather because we were buddies, but it was like he was an old man, so I never like I wasn't gonna chest bump him or anything. Yeah. But it was like we were just so hyped that we couldn't believe it. I just like grabbed his shoulder, was just like and everybody was going nuts. It was I mean there's no words really. It was, and from there on, you just knew like, we're gonna crush this team.
I mean, I've watched the Rebirth documentary, and I've cried watching it, and I'm not even from New Orleans. Just get so caught up in the emotion of it.
Yeah, it just was a natural progression from there to the Hartley kick. I mean, natural progression. A lot of turmoil happened between that, but just the only next best thing was the NFC Championship and being there in the same seats when that kick went through. My grandfather wasn't physically able at that point to be in the seat, because it was just too hard for him to get in the stadium. But my uncle, who has also since left this earth, he was with me in that game next to me, and I remember there's a great photo of me calling my grandfather on the phone in the seats, and it's like me you can see me holding my ear and just wanting him to experience it. It wasn't, I don't think we had the FaceTime back then necessarily, but it's just that place.
Like, Corey, can I and it's probably I'd say it's probably a personal thing, and I think it is a personal thing. It's like the fact that you had those opportunities to have those moments with grandparents and uncles and people that you loved, like in a weird way, that breaks my heart for me, because I never had that. We've spoken about it on previous pods, especially with Jessica, about where both my parents were alcoholic, and I didn't have those opportunities to have that type of opportunity with family members. And when I listen to somebody like you, where you've had those moments and they're heartfelt and they're beautiful, and, regardless of whether it was, the Rebirth or whatever it was, you've just had those opportunities. And I'm quite, in a weird way, I'm quite jealous.
Sure.
But
could see that.
I'm jealous, but in a good way, because I just think to myself, just like sort of remember those, like for you, which I know you do. Remember those with the heartfelt energy that you do, because they're beautiful. They're beautiful moments. And I would say that to anybody else out there who ever listens to this fucking pod, if you get the opportunity to have those opportunities to share those moments with people you love, then fucking enjoy them. Really enjoy them.
Don't ever be too cool for them. Just enjoy them, embrace them.
Friend.
It's okay.
It's like,
it's okay to enjoy them. It's okay to talk about them. It's okay
it's okay to enjoy them. It's okay to be emotional about them.
Yeah. It's
no, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. And sorry, I brought you down a little bit there, but
no. But you bring up a good point, because I try to reinforce with people, because I never want to be, I understand if I ever do come across or be misinterpreted the wrong way, because I've grown up and been surrounded with a lot of people who are guys who have a lot of advantages in life. If they grow up like me in New Orleans or in the American South, as a white male with middle class to upper class income family, they have access to things that a lot of people who are from New Orleans don't. And I think it's inexcusable, but I think a lot of guys like that take it for granted. And I think, in terms of living in a city like this, being from a city like this, and if you're somebody who has been blessed and has had and it's okay to call it what it is, to have the privilege, grow up with it, then acknowledge it and do something with it. Like you don't have to shy away from it. You can acknowledge that you grew up with, like, lucky to have certain opportunities, but you're not just keeping them to yourself. You're not just flaunting them. You're not just bragging about them. You're not just waving them in somebody's face. You're sharing them with people. Maybe you're bringing joy to somebody who wants to hear about it, or maybe you're taking time out of your day because you can, and you don't have to be making money on the hour working 2 jobs to go, like, help somebody out or go volunteer somewhere. And it's like, it just brings up to me an important point, which is something we always have to confront in the city of New Orleans when you're somebody who grew up here, that it's just like the Saints are a team and we're all Saints fans. This city is kind of a team, and some people either decide they're on the team, or some people just say, I live here. I don't want to put up with the bad. I just want to focus on the good. It's like, well, that's fine, but you're just living a lie at that point, because
I think, I was gonna say, invariably, when I see people get into it on, like, social media, normally those Saints fans who are dismissive and condescending, they're not from New Orleans. They're from somewhere else in the South, and they don't necessarily recognise the community that's in the city. It's just all about playing it forward, isn't it? And just looking out for the people around you and supporting them.
It's like,
you make a good point. Recognise what you've got, but also make sure you share with others to try and bring them up.
It's
as well.
Because I recognize that, like, the opportunities that I've had, the games that I've been to, the memories that I've been able to have, like, because, like Mike brings up, it's you share it with the cognizance that, like, there's always someone in a different situation, and so it's just always good. It keeps it in perspective, like the same guy who I went to all the games with was the same guy who, I talk about it like, my dad was very present, and, like, I learned a lot from my own father, but my grandfather treated me, my brother, his grandsons, just with like we're princes or something. But he's also the same guy that just always told me, like, hey, it's just, there's a lot of people that are just ugly and mean in this world. It's always easier just to be nice. It's just easier to be nice.
It doesn't cost a thing to be nice. It doesn't cost a thing to be nice.
So it's just that whole mentality. And so so it's easier to just recognize, like, had these amazing opportunities as a Saints fan. So if you speak with anyone who maybe has not had that opportunity, and if you ever have an opportunity to, like, give away a ticket or bring them to your tailgate or just buy them a beer before a game, just whatever it may be, any small gesture, it's
the little things.
Pass it down.
Corey, on that one, I think myself and Dan would probably agree. It doesn't matter about, like, it's not about privilege. It's not about this. It's just about the experience. Myself and Dan are very jealous that you've had those experiences. That's as simple as it gets.
I try to
about where you're from, who you are, what you do. Me and Dan haven't had
something
the
that's,
experiences
like,
that you have, and we're jealous as fuck. I can assure you.
Well, I try to share them with guys like you to get, or guys that are from the UK who are so enthusiastic about the Saints again, because I love it. And it's the closest I can get y'all to the action. Like if I can get y'all as close to where my eyeballs were in that moment, damn it, I'm gonna try to do it.
And that's why we have people on like yourself, Corey, and Max, and things from the US, because we want to. It's not just about our community outside of the US; it's about sharing with our community outside of the US those experiences that our friends in the US have been able to experience. And anyone who's listening to this now who isn't watching on YouTube, I can tell you that I can see in Corey's eyes the amount of gratitude he's got for the fact that he's experienced those things. And I love hearing it. I love hearing stories. I will sit and listen to anyone talk to me about New Orleans. It doesn't matter what it is. You could tell me about taking a shit in the worst toilet in the French Quarter. I'll listen. And
sorry.
Can I just
point out, me and Dan are going to do it when we're over there in November. We're going to do a special episode about fucking toilets in New Orleans. We're going to record it. We're going to record it.
Whatever.
And we're gonna post it.
Yeah.
Just Mike. There'll be plenty of videos of Mike having a pony. Like, don't like this one. Bit cold.
Oh yeah. Y'all should find a bathroom in the quarter where like the stall doesn't go all the way up to the ceiling, just record it.
There is simply on no stall in
just sit. Y'all each pick a stall. Well, the acoustics will let your voices pick up on the mics, right?
No,
so
Dan's favorite is always when we go into the quarter for a drink. When we go to the Aaron Rose, Dan was like, "What the fuck is this toilet?" It's like
there's no fucking knock on the door. It's one toilet. You cannot have a shit. You cannot have a shit in that bar. You cannot have a shit in that bar.
Well,
you have to put your leg up against the door.
You can. You just have to be okay with like people seeing you take a shit.
Yeah.
I think that might be a really good point to maybe end the pod.
Is it because it's deuces or because it's
I'll just say broadly, having a shit in America traumatizes me no matter where I am, because you've got those gaps in the doors that are like that, and just see an eyeball like, is anyone in there? It's like, yeah, I'm in here. Wiping my ass.
Hey, look, whenever I go to the city, I've got a little map of the toilets that I can use. I've got it. It's an exclusive map. The only other person that knows it is Alex, our friend from the UK. But I've got an exclusive map of the toilets that I can use.
Very nice. Very nice.
So, hey, that's life. That's who we are.
You live and learn.
Do it right.
They don't say the city has charm for nothing. No,
but the good thing now, Dan, after this pod, is that we know we can use Corey's house to have a crap in.
I mean, to be fair, I did Google it after Corey gave me his address to get my t-shirt sent to. I was like, oh, that's a nice place. I called my wife and I was like, "What do you think? This is a nice house. What do you think of this? We could live somewhere like this."
If I'll give Lizzie fair warning that look, if a guy named Dan or Mike shows up,
and they want a pony, we call it a pony.
And if
you probably have no idea why we called it a pony either.
They ask you a question that you don't understand, just let them in, because it means they have to take a shit.
So let us pass some knowledge on. So we call it a pony. So it's Cockney rhyming slang for pony and trap. We're trying to crap. So that's why we call it a pony.
Yeah. Well, I'm picking up. Listen to y'all's pod. There's a few that I've picked up on.
All right. So
here there.
I think now we've descended into the toilet infrastructure of New Orleans. We should probably bring the prod
to 1 in the morning.
If you're still listening at this point, then
wait, Dan, it's 1:45 in the morning in the UK.
Oh, fucking hell, it's 1:45. Shit, it's
1:45. But yet again, personally, thank you, mate. Thank you for coming on. Thank you also for talking so personally about your family, which was beautiful, really revealing to us. Yeah. Obviously, we're going to see you. We're going to be over in November. We're going to see you. We're going to see all the guys. Let's make sure we hammer a date down to have a couple of drinks when we're over there.
Yep, absolutely. It was truly my pleasure, guys. Yeah. I love y'all's pod. I think y'all are doing amazing things for, just general podcast storytelling, but also for the Saints community. Like I said, y'all know my history now, fully been growing up with it. And as a lifelong Saints fan and guy from New Orleans, it's truly touching that y'all are able to just, get right there in it and get some great stories and expose guys like me who are from here to just how big this Saints community, these people who appreciate New Orleans are. It's amazing. Yeah. So thank you all. It's been an honor to be on here.
No, thank you, mate. Really do appreciate coming on. Cannot wait to see you, buy you a drink, shake your hand, and give you
literally less than 2 weeks away, my friend.
Crazy.
We'll see you there for a 15-pint down in one.
Yeah, exactly.
Corey, you up
down in one? I'm not 15 pints, mate. I'll have jet lag.
Hey, it's my city, but I'm just along for the ride when y'all show up.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Take care, Corey.
Okay, lovely, guys.
Lovely talking to you, my friend.
Great time.
Take care, everyone. See ya. Bye.